Hello and welcome to episode 187 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just a couple of regular guys drinking some irregular beers, talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular the online client MTG Arena.
That's right, and this week's episode is one of my favorite episodes. We are doing our first sips of Tarkir Dragonstorm, Magic's newest set. So it's our first sips or first thoughts of the set, but before we get into it, each week we bring a beer, we drink it, we rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right, this week we have a beer from Sawdust City Brewing Company. They've been on the show a few times. I
Hmm.
have no idea how I feel about them. It's a real roller coaster. Sometimes I think they're great, sometimes I think they're terrible, but mostly I just kind of forget that I've tried a bunch of their stuff. So I don't know what it is, if it's something about their like branding or whatever, but I'm always like, oh, it's that one. Oh yeah, I know that one. But this time we have a New England style IPA, which is one of my favorite beer styles. So I'm
Hmm.
excited to try it. It's called Juicin', 6%. Says over here, always got to go check this out. Hops, Simcoe Citra Mosaic. I like that lineup.
Hmm.
I might throw some Cascade in there myself, maybe replace Simcoe with Cascade. But overall, I'm liking those choices. So, hey,
Yeah,
this is gearing up. This is all the ingredients required to be a good one. The only
it's true.
question is it a good
Is
one?
it?
I don't know.
I don't know either. So we'll have to find out. But it is in fact juicy and soft, is what they say. So we'll find out. And well, Jeff, let's find out right now. Let's crack these open.
SRM of five. That's what you like to see.
Sorry, what did you say?
SRM five.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh yeah. 15p OG for sure, for sure.
SRM of five. I'm pretty sure that just means it's like super, super pale. That's what they
Oh, the
call it.
coloring. Right,
Yeah.
right. Uh, it is, in fact, very pale. Anyway, with that, we have some magic news. Like we just said, Tarkir Dragonstorm has now launched and released onto Arena. It's a good time, man. We're going to obviously talk about it in the whole show, but I will say the launch of Tarkir Dragonstorm was smoother than ever. One of the smoothest, I'd have to say.
Yeah. It
We
was
have
only
had
like slightly delayed, right?
like but not like barely, if that. Like sometimes there have been disasters. I think most notably Streets of New Capenna was a complete disaster, where the actual set didn't get on Arena until like I think it was like 10:30 or 11 that Tuesday night. It was bad. It was
Oh,
like
I
12
remember
hours
that
later.
because I like couldn't play till after work and then after the kids in bed and all that. And so finally I'm like gearing up to play after all that and it
Mhm.
wasn't on yet. I was
Yeah,
like, "What?"
I know.
Like it's been
Like,
like 12 almost 12 hours since it was supposed
yeah.
to have dropped.
If you remember, that was when I had COVID and I was stuck in a room by myself. I was like, well, at least the new
Jeez,
Magic set's
I
coming
do
out.
remember this
And
now.
so I was
Yeah.
sitting there all day waiting for it to launch, and it never launched. And I was so
Brutal.
angry. And
That's
it was
rough.
just the worst day. So that was burned into my memory forever. I will never forget that. But this one was great. And this is one of the reasons why the update that happened last week was so big, was because they had front or backloaded, sorry, a bunch of stuff the week prior. So they put a bunch of cards on, and then basically the one that released it just kind of unveiled them essentially. So they got to
I've always
work all
wondered
week
why
on
they
bugs
don't
and
do that.
stuff.
Like,
Yeah.
especially when once the cards are all spoiled, because maybe they're worried about leaks. Once
Hmm.
they're all spoiled, put them in Arena just as cards you can't play yet. You
Exactly.
know, like I guess that's what
So
they did.
that's what they did. So good stuff that worked really well, and yeah, fantastic. Finally figured it out. Great job, Wizards. Um, Also, there's this new thing that they did with Tarkir, like sealed events. Usually, there's like a sealed event, and you can do your like fake pre-release or whatever. But they actually had like a real fun one. Like the pre-release for Tarkir Dragonstorm. If you went to a store, you got to pick your clan. You got your clan box. It's like 5 packs of Tarkir Dragonstorm and one clan pack that has like your promo, and it's all like clan specific rares and cards and stuff. Lots of fun. And it was exactly the same on Arena. Well, almost exactly the same. You got 4 packs of Tarkir and then 2 packs that were clan specific, but still,
Yeah.
like, it was awesome. I like, yeah,
Yeah, it's cool. Is this something they're gonna run just for like the first week or something, or is
I
this
think
just a
so.
an option?
I think it's just for like the first week or so. It's kind of like
Yeah,
the release thing. Um, so
makes sense.
there's 5 different windows where you can like, oh, you can be one of the 5 clans, but the queue for the sealed is all the same. So like depending, it doesn't matter which window you're in, which clan you just chose. You're still matched up against everybody else, which is cool.
And the interesting thing is like I don't know if it was exactly Cons of Tarkir, but it was kind of around that when they started doing this kind of thing in paper.
Hmm.
Now, because I remember going to that and being like, oh, wait, I don't just get a random promo. Because the way they did it then was you got the promo that you chose, basically. If you chose to be Jeskai, then you sat with all the like Jeskai people and you had,
Hmm.
I think, like a Jeskai themed die and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got the
yeah.
Jeskai promo, but you weren't more likely to open Jeskai cards or anything like that.
Oh.
You still got your 6 packs, but the
Hmm.
style, there were 5 different dice and each one
Hmm.
looked different and there were 5 different promos. And I might be misremembering, but it might have actually been Tarkir when they started doing that, where you pick beforehand or like,
Yeah.
and then you kind of customize your pre-release experience a little bit. Because before that, you used to just get a random promo that was just kind of what any card in the set, pretty much.
Yeah, I think that was probably the first time they started. Either the first time they started doing promos. I know with Ravnica they've done a lot of stuff with
Yeah.
allegiances and guilds. They had clan or guild specific kits. I don't know if they did that with Return to Ravnica, but I do know that in New Phyrexia, before the actual like set was announced, because that was one of those things where like nobody knew who won the war. It was like, are you
Right.
was it like Mirrodin? I don't know what they were trying to call the
And
other set.
allegedly, it was actually influenced by people's votes or something.
I think
Somehow,
that they
I kind of
said
doubt they actually did that. But
there's no way, but they
yeah.
they let people vote on what they thought, and so I think at some pre-releases people have talked about you sit on the new Phyrexia side or you sit on the Mirrodin side, and then everybody gets their kits, and then you open them up and you all find out together who won the war. Even though all the kits are the same, there's still a pre-release experience of
Right.
choosing.
Okay.
So I think that was the beginning of the idea that like, oh, we could do these fun things.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's a super cool way to make pre-releases stand out a little more. Like it makes sense too. You're generally not using your pre-release to like practice for sealed events, you
mm-mm.
know? Like
No,
so the fact that they're a little different than what a competitive sealed event would look like is totally fine, I think. It's just to play the new cards, have fun, meet people,
yeah.
like and what better way than to be like I kind of because a lot of times you're hoping there's one clan you kind of like the best and you're
Hmm.
hoping that you open stuff in
Yeah.
that clan or whatever. And so why not just here's a little
You're
help,
just
2 packs is enough that you're almost certainly playing Abzan if you pick Abzan, you know.
it was to the point where like when I did a sealed on Arena, I picked Abzan, and when I opened all my rares, I was confused why one of them was Mardu because all the rest of them fit in my Abzan deck. I
Yeah.
was
I
like,
mean your
what?
deck was cracked though.
My deck was correct. That video is up on YouTube if you want to go check it out. But Jeff, I did want to ask you, did you play a pre-release this time around?
No, I wasn't able to make it out to a pre-release, unfortunately.
Shucks.
Would have liked to, but just had some family visiting at the time,
Hmm.
so wasn't in the cards. How about you?
Uh, I did. I got to go to one, which was great. A few of my friends were able to come out. We did one on like Sunday morning, so it was kind of later. It was a little bit more relaxed,
Nice.
and I ended up picking Teamer, which was not necessarily what I had gone in thinking, but it just kind of like came to me. And I opened not only as my pre-release promo, but as another card in my 6 packs. Were I had 2 copies of Ureni, the like spirit, the dragon of Teamer, It's
Mhm.
like this huge 8 mana dragon that has protection from white and protection from black. It's like a 10/10, and when it enters, it deals damage divided as you choose, like amongst whatever
Yeah.
creatures, equal to the number of lands you control. So
Oh
it
yeah, I lost
was,
to that card.
yeah. So I had two in my deck, and I also had Breaching Dragonstorm. So a lot of it was just like, Breaching,
Pick a
or yeah, the
combo.
red one, yeah. So I was like always hoping to get that. Never got that combo off, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I went 1-1-1, so it's kind of a,
Got the full experience.
yeah, full, kind
All
of like a,
possible outcomes.
yeah, yeah. So a little lackluster in the actual record category, but it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of cool people and had a blast. So that was what was most important, of course.
Pre-releases
So,
are like the one event where I literally don't care what my record is most of
hmm
the time. Like obviously I'd rather 3-0 than 0-3.
hmm
But usually when I'm like, record is no big deal, I'm secretly like, oh man, I wish I didn't have such a shit record in that tournament.
hmm
But for pre-releases, I just don't care. I'm just playing. I hope
It's
I get to play against fun people, and a lot of the time, being in the winners bracket is actually
it's less
antithetical
fun.
to that.
It's
So,
true. It's like I want the I want to have the most fun with my opponents, and a lot of the time it is just in the losers bracket where like you
yeah,
get to your third game and everyone's like, whatever. Oh, this thing happened. Oh, it's so crazy. This, and you're just sharing stories the whole time, barely playing the game. I do kind of like that experience. It is fun. So I had a great time, and yeah, my last opponent, she was talking about like like she was pre-releasing the whole weekends. They like bought a box her and her husband had, and they had a bunch of people over. They drafted the night before. Like they had a whole full
oh
pre-release
nice.
thing, and I was
Yeah,
like,
some
damn,
people
that's
do that.
sick.
It's cool. Like I actually like going to the Sunday ones because because you meet people. I've been like,
hmm
yes, like my fifth pre-release. I haven't slept since they started. So like,
I'm like, damn, dude, you're dropping like money on pre-release, you
yeah.
know?
Some people just love pre-releases. And
It's a
I
lot
get
of,
it. I get it.
I super get it. If they served beer,
Yeah.
I would be doing more events
Telling
for
you,
sure.
man, come to our Friday night beer
It's just
pre-releases.
like so far away. I just like, how am I going to get home? That's the main thing. I was like, I'm just going to have too much fun and then
Yeah.
not know how to get home.
Just take a cab.
I'll just walk. Yeah, take a cab
Yeah.
from like an hour away. Um, Anyway, but yeah, pre-release this week. We're going to talk obviously more about Dragons of Tarkir, dragons, the
We
dragons
could talk
of
about Dragons of Tarkir if you want, but it's been a while.
the dragons of Tarkir in the Dragonstorm.
Yeah.
Um, but we also have some more news that came out. So there was an arena state of the game for the spring of 2025. This is unusual. We tend to get one of these a year, but they've decided they want to do more to be a bit more transparent. Always happy with this.
Sure. Yeah.
These are always something I'm pretty interested in. Not a lot of like concrete news with this, but like the buds of a lot of interesting stuff. So I just wanted to highlight on those things because we will see them in the future, and this is the first time we're kind of hearing about them specifically. One of the cool things is that they're looking at the economy and also looking at duplicate protection and how to make it better for players. This is good. And I think more of that stuff's coming in May, or probably it'll probably come in a patch in June for Final Fantasy. But basically, they're saying like, hey, you know that thing where there's like two printings of a card? Let's say you have like four copies of Aether Drift Bloodgast and only one copy of the old art of Bloodgast, and you want to play the old art, but you don't want to spend wildcards to get it.
Yes,
Well,
I've been there so many times.
in a couple months, it's like, hey, you have four copies of the card. You can pick whichever art version you want. It doesn't matter as long as you have four copies. You're good. You can switch back and forth. Like, I mean, okay, sorry. I think you might need five copies.
You need
Where
at
you
least
have,
one of the other.
I think you
Like,
still need to get one or the other. But
I'm curious about that because some stuff has printings at different rarities.
mhm.
And would it apply there? Like some cards, there's a printing that's uncommon, and then like a mystical archives one that's rare or
Mhm.
something.
I'm going to assume that they are trying to move in that direction because they're also doing that stuff with the special guests where they're like, whatever this special guest was printed at originally, we're gonna let you buy it for that. Like whenever they make like a common or uncommon special guest,
Yeah.
they're like, you don't have to pay a mythic wild card to get that art. You just get to do an uncommon. Like they've already done that
Okay.
in the
I love
past.
that. I love that. That's great.
So I'm
Uh,
assuming that that's how it's going to work. Don't quote me on that, but they also didn't give any extreme concrete evidence. But this is something that they're working towards and trying to make it just better for duplicate protection and smooth
Follow-up.
out the game.
If I already spent wildcards on the art that I
Hmm.
prefer at a higher rarity, will they refund me?
No, don't. I'm almost assuredly no. They will not do that because then that's basically
That's a whole
just
can of worms.
that's so much free wildcards into the economy. Just like, hey, if you have multiple copies of this one card, there's just for some free wildcards. I'm sure they don't want to do that.
But you
Um,
know there are people who think that way and will now be like upset, right? Like,
that's
oh, I
true. That's true.
spent rares. Now other people only have to spend on the commons.
Yeah, but those are also the people that say, "Oh, I paid for my student loans, and then you should
Yes,
also have to pay
it
for
is the
yours."
same people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I don't agree with
We
those
all know
people.
what kind of people we're talking about. But
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't have to
Hey,
use any terminology.
my aunt died from cancer, so you shouldn't be able to get treatment and actually save yourself. That's basically what it feels like to me.
But I
From a,
should if it happens to me.
yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I don't I don't love that. Maybe that's a little bit too intense for a podcast. We usually try to keep it light, but
Yeah.
hey, if we could make things better for other people, why not? Why not?
Yeah,
Even
this
if
is
bad things
obviously
happen to
a
us.
great change. I'm pretty excited about it because this has happened to me multiple times. I think Thalia was one where this happened to me.
Mm,
I think I have four copies of Thalia, but one is one printing and three are a different printing.
mhm.
And it's always annoyed me, but not annoyed me enough to like craft a fourth Thalia of the printing I have. And the problem is I prefer the one that I only have one of. So it's just like, ah,
That yeah,
I'm just the guy with mismatched Thalias, I guess.
and that's yeah. And I would, love to have the choice to be able to do that. And actually, this is actually context to why they've actually put. Sorry, I've said actually a million times, and now I can't stop thinking about it. But the reason they're doing this
Actually,
is
you only said it
actually
five times.
the reason that they're doing this is because they started doing those pre-constructed decks, right? So you could buy decks in the store, and then they would like basically not make you pay for the cards you already owned. However, if you owned that card but a different version of the card, the basically Arena wouldn't realize that, and they'd charge you for that card, and that was an
Yeah.
issue. So this is them fixing this problem so that they can put more pre-constructed decks into the actual ecosystem or in the store. Because apparently they've been really
That checks.
popular with brawl people. So it's showing that like, hey, that pre-constructed deck thing has been popular, specifically with brawl players. If they did the standard ones much closer to when the Pro Tour happens, I would be much more on board. But like 2 or 3 weeks after, hey, these are the top 8 decks, but it's way too late. It should be like
Yeah,
that week,
right. Like, how hard is it? You just go copy the deck list and import it into Arena and start selling it to
right?
people. Like,
I'm sure that there's more to it than that,
I
obviously,
don't
but
think so. That's it. I'm
yeah, but
declaring it.
But I don't know. They get the deck lists. They're live on Friday. You could do it on Friday. Make sure it's right on Monday. I'm not saying that they have to work over the weekend. I don't want to force anyone who doesn't usually work the weekends to do that. But I think they could figure it out. Even
I
if it's
mean,
a week after.
would be kind of cool if during the top eight you get to play with the top eight decks.
I mean, well, yeah, that would be fantastic. Like, but that
And
would be like Saturday night into Sunday morning work. You know what I mean?
yeah, but all you would have to do is like you would have like text files with all the with all the decks,
Hmm.
and you would have a way to like link which ones end up in the top eight, and it just auto fires those. Like you could set
Right.
up a DAG to do this automatically without people having to work the weekend.
Okay. Well, can you? What about like making sure that the art on the box and like the whole presentation of it in the store, like that's what I'm talking about. Like you have to put that
You would have to
together.
have a template, right? Like it would have to be
Hmm.
you would choose each deck, you choose a key card much in the same way that they already kind of do. And then You would have
have that
like
up and do the
if
thing.
it's red
Okay.
black, this is the automatic template that goes
Well,
on.
Jeff,
But it would
why don't
be,
they should hire you to do this? That would be perfect.
I, if they offered the right amount,
Yeah.
enough
It,
wild cards, and I'm in.
yeah. I get paid in wild cards every year. Oh
The
God.
negotiations, just like the whole time I think I'm talking about wild cards, and they think they're talking about money. It's
Yeah.
like, oh,
I,
that's a lot of wild cards per
I
year.
want 100,000.
Yeah, wild cards per year.
I need six figures of wild cards every year. Oh God. Anyway, so that's happening. We're going to hear more about that in May, but I'm assuming that June is going to be the time for it. Another thing. Sorry, we're still on the Magic news, but I don't care. It's fun.
Yeah.
The we are doing more things with social interactions with both arena and real life game stores, and trying to bridge the gaps between those two things and keep your community in real life, bring it to arena. They're figuring out different ways to do that. They're at the very beginning of this, so we're not going to probably see any actual implementation of that, but we're going to hear more about it at the end of the year. But it is the kind of thing where keep an eye out for those surveys and stuff, and start thinking about what you specifically would want and start voicing that. Which my number one thing is, let me cube with my friends. Let me cube. Give me a cube thing, and I can put the cube in arena, and then let me do that. That's what I would
Yeah, I
want.
mean, we run a arena peasant cube once a
Yeah,
month,
in our
and we
Discord.
use what four, at least three different programs to do that, maybe four.
Yes,
If
we
that could
use
all
yeah.
be like the companion, the draft sim,
Mm,
arena itself, and Discord to
you're
organize it.
right.
If that could all be done within arena, I know like we're pretty far away from that, but that should be their North Star like end goal for that type of thing. Like all of that
Exactly.
instead of happening in four different apps that we need to like negotiate across, just
Hmm.
you should just be able to do it in arena.
Exactly. We should just be able to do that. That would be phenomenal.
Be able to build your
Even
cube in
just
arena. You should. Oh, there's five because Dylan actually has to use another thing to go build his cube,
that's true. Yeah,
Cube
there's
Cobra or whatever it's
Cube
called.
Cobra. Yeah. Um,
So
even just like being able to voice chat in arena, literally just that, or have different tables, or run the
yeah,
tournament. Like
and I
we're
get not
using,
wanting voice chat all the time, but like if it's all everyone's friends, everyone's a friend, everyone's on
yeah,
everyone's friend list, then you can have
yeah,
some.
just do your friends. Like why can't I just like me and my friend play arena and I just like pop in and say, hey, what's up? And then we just like talk while we're playing. Like, why isn't
Right.
that a thing? I have to use
Yeah.
a different program. Anyway, we're going to hear more about that stuff, and what they're kind of focused on, but that's my main focus, I think.
Yeah. Now,
So,
I do like how they're like, oh, we want to be more transparent and update you more frequently, but then all of the updates are like, we'll tell you more later.
yeah,
Like,
that's true.
like
That
okay,
is
so
true.
they're
So,
really telling me anything
kind
right
of
now,
what I
actually.
thought. One thing they did tell us for sure is that they did hire an alchemy designer for the client. And my biggest thought about this is like, okay, so there's a dedicated alchemy person instead of splitting this up between groups. The first thing I thought was, wasn't this already somebody's job? I thought this was somebody's job already.
I thought there
Is
were
this
alchemy
is this
designers
the first?
already.
Is this the first time you have a dedicated alchemy person? No wonder that
It
thing isn't like,
explains a
yeah.
lot.
It's like, oh, so this format we invented like 2 years ago, we had never really given somebody specifically just that job. Let's let just other people kind of figure it out. This is like classic corporate stuff where they're like,
Yeah.
just giving extra work to people because they think they can handle it. And then it's just a dumpster fire. And they're like, why isn't this working? It's like, they're like kicking it. Like, what's wrong with this dumpster? Why is it on fire? And it's like,
No, Zach, you don't understand. It's an opportunity for those people to
to,
show initiative and to
right.
show,
Yeah,
really.
of course. I mean, like, I don't know if the person who is hired to be this alchemy designer was one of those people who was working on it since the beginning and has now been promoted to this
They're now
position
the
that's now
Mark
been created.
Rosewater of alchemy.
Yeah. But I have two thoughts about this. Number one, man, we're giving more resources to alchemy. Blah. But number two is, well, if this wasn't a thing before, maybe this will be helpful to make the format more interesting or something that would
For
be
sure.
in a place that we had originally hoped. So it could be just a positive thing.
There's also the possibility that like before it was side of desk for a bunch of people, and now
Hmm.
those people get to free up their time to work on formats that
That's
I do
true.
like. So
It's true. So there's a lot of different things, but that was interesting to me. Um, yeah, and with that, of course, we're getting more alchemy stuff in a couple weeks, as well as the 10 phase commanders for the commander products. So watch out for when that drops and all the draft queues get confusing again. We will remind you next week. But sorry, I really don't want to apologize about that. I love talking about Magic news. It's so much fun to me. But let's actually talk about the set. Let's go into it.
yes,
Tarkir Dragonstorm.
let's do it.
Uh, Jeff, how you feeling with this set?
Uh, Good. It feels like Tarkir as someone who played a lot of
It.
Tarkir back in the
Hmm.
day. Like this gives me those like that nostalgia, those flashbacks are reminiscent while still feeling new. And it feels very dragony. The
It
dragons
is.
are in every limited game I play. They involve at
Hmm.
least one dragon, it feels like, usually multiple dragons on both
Yeah.
sides of the battlefield. So, I was a little worried because they have this history of like the theme of the set is bad and
Yeah.
limited.
Hmm.
And that has not been the experience so far. Dragons are good. The format seems like it is slow enough that dragons can come down and make an impact despite being
Hmm.
5+ mana most of the time. Obviously, Omen facilitates that a little bit too. So far, it feels great. It looks like Tarkir, feels like Tarkir, quacks like Tarkir, and dragons are all over the place.
It
So,
quacks like Tarkir. It must be a dragon.
yeah.
Um, Jeff, you brought up Omen, and I did want to ask you, how do they feel? We were kind of iffy about it coming into it. We're worried, but what are your initial feelings on Omen as far as like playing with it now?
Feels like a creature instant slash sorcery split card. And like, this is the way that they chose to design that so that you, so that it, because if you design it the normal way or the obvious way, the thing, the dominant thing to do will always be reanimate. Because you're like, oh, I
Hmm.
cast this for its cheap sorcery, get a big dragon in the graveyard, and then reanimate it. They're trying to make you like not allowed to do that. So it really just feels like a sorcery slash dragon split card, and they did a good job where usually the instant or sorcery is cheap and the dragon is
Hmm.
expensive, makes them really good limited cards. But it also has the effect of smoothing out draws
Hmm.
because if you don't, like a lot of the time, if you are drawing a land flight hand and you're 6 drop, you basically
You,
just lose. You just
yeah.
lose that limited game unless you get very lucky
Well, because
to
you
draw out of
mulligan,
it.
right? You
Yeah, it's
technically
essentially a
mulligans.
mulligan, right?
Yeah.
And so having the split card, also be a cheap removal spell to help you survive longer. Like they did a good job
Hmm.
of the spells generally, you don't want them at the same time. So yeah, I think it plays really well. It's just kind of like it doesn't feel, I guess, as weird as I originally thought, where maybe
Hmm.
it's because I'm not actually doing it. I'm not actually shuffling my card back into my deck because I'm playing on Arena. It just kind of goes away.
Yeah.
But I'm not like sitting there being like, yeah, now I can draw the dragon side later. Like that'll come up sometimes, but it's not.
Well, the thing that's really interesting, I will say yes, at the pre-release, the number one thing was I heard everyone constantly, "Oh, I was supposed to shuffle this and it's in their graveyard. Oh,
Yeah,
wait, I was supposed to shuffle this in." And it was a
right.
constant thing during their opponent's turn, looking at their battlefield. "Oh, wait, sorry, sorry, sorry,
Hold
sorry."
on. Everyone's just
And
shuffling the whole time.
yeah,
You look at
and that
the
was like happening constantly. Which obviously it's a pre-release, so you're expecting things like that. Um, but I will say it's so funny because I do spend a lot of time looking at these dragons, being like, just looking at the spell side almost always. I'm
yeah.
always looking at the spell side to the point where like I'm playing like the red dragon, which is the red common one, which is like you can discard and draw two for 2 or 5 mana hasty 3/3,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just forget that I have a 5 mana 3/3 hasty creature.
Right. I'm like, oh man, I don't want
I was
faithless,
like,
or I don't want
I'm like playing in Jeskai. I was like, okay, so I can discard this, and then I draw something that triggers my stuff, but then hopefully I
you might even
draw.
draw a dragon.
dragon, and then I can play that. Wait, I should just play this dragon, and it happens so much
Yeah.
that
That
like
that
I
is the
know.
shortcut I use to evaluate them too, is like, do I want the
Mhm.
spell? And then the upside is you'll play a big creature sometimes. And it
Yeah,
usually doesn't even matter that much how good the creature side is
it
because
doesn't.
like you're just playing a big creature at that point. And
Yeah,
like it's stapled to something that you want to play for a different
yeah.
reason.
And I think they did a pretty good job of like like the common black one is like put a +1/+1 counter on something and draw a card. And a lot of
Yeah.
times it's just like that one's bad enough that you're like, I guess I'm just cycling this, you know. And that I
Right.
will see people do that. And it's a one that goes through drafts a lot where you're just like passing this stupid card. But compared to like the white one, which is the Riling Dawnbreaker, which is like 2 mana make a 2/2, like that one is great.
Yeah. That's
So
just like
it's just like sick.
Grizzly Bear, like that's the classic two drop, good early, good late, two drop kind of thing. Um,
So and it's also just obviously stapled on your thing, and you get to like see, oh, I'll just like fire this off on two. Having a 2 mana 2/2 is going to be great, and then I'll maybe draw this later. But I have been really enjoying a lot of these omen creatures,
I love the
and
green one, man. Zagu Wildling.
that one
That guy's
is
my boy.
busted. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is very good. Definitely was kind of underrated early. A lot of people were like passing that one up. But being able to fix your lands and then gain 3 life later in the game, like
I don't even hate 3/3 flying gain 3 for 5. Like that's not that bad.
the thing I hate about it, I will say, is that I know they did this on purpose, but it is one of the smaller ones. Like the
Yeah.
white one is a 3/4 for 5. Like it doesn't brawl. It beats the green one in combat. Like that's weird. The black one
Also, the
beats is
green
a
one
three
looks
five.
huge, but he's just like,
A little 3/3.
yeah.
So I don't know if it's because they're like, hey, green gets big other creatures, but not big flying creatures. That's not what green does. And that's a very common design thing where it's like green
Yeah.
doesn't get flying creatures very often. So when they do get it, they shouldn't be the biggest ones, is their
Right.
idea.
Hmm.
But it does feel weird to see like, oh, big green dragons, not that big. Okay, all right, that's fine.
He's peaceful.
He's a peaceful dragon. But overall, like out the gate for the limited format, I can't tell you what the best color combination is. And that
I
feels
can tell you
awesome.
which one I think is the worst.
I still think it's up for debate, but I'm give me what you give it to me. I know what you're gonna say.
So this is based on limited data, which is
Hmm.
watching your stream when you played all day. And
Hmm.
then I did one draft myself, the first draft I did. And you seemed to crush Mardu pretty easily all day and then not do well with Mardu yourself. And then I did terribly with a Mardu deck as well. And it felt the same thing that I was seeing on your opponent's side of the battlefield, which is like, I'm going wide, I'm being aggressive, I'm doing everything the Mardu deck asks me to do. And I
Hmm.
feel like I'm just instantly getting hated on by good stuff my opponent already wants to play. They're like gaining life and they're like picking off 1/1s and like
Yeah,
just
making a five
casually block.
five.
It's like my
Yeah.
mobilize didn't matter that much. There's always just get blocked. And
Hmm.
it's like, ugh, I feel like I'm working way harder than my Abzan opponents.
Hmm.
You know, like maybe
Yes.
Mardu versus Abzan is just a nightmare matchup for Mardu, and I ran into a lot of it. But it's like Mardu felt like you need a lot of things to go right. You need to
Yeah.
like be the aggressor, so you generally want to be on the play. You need to curve out. You need like to find your removal for their big stuff, and the opponent just kind of needs to play their stuff,
Hmm.
and like everything has to go right for you to win. And if one thing goes wrong, like they're just gonna take over the game. That's kind of what it felt like playing what I thought was
Yeah.
actually a really good Mardu deck when I built it because it was wide open. I
Hmm.
was getting all the stuff, you know, multiple like Twin Moss Storm Broods and stuff, and just like some on color rares. But I will say a lot of the time I lost to a rare as well. Like a lot of the
Hmm.
rares just like gain a fuck ton of life or something. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh
There's a lot
man,
of
like
life gain. I think that what pushes the Mardu decks over the top and things that you really need end up being stuff like War Effort, really important card, like a 4 mana red sorcery that gives a creature's
yeah,
+1/+0 and mobilizes.
I
You
had it.
need You need that extra stuff. The ways I've won with Mardu decks are like Venerated Storm Singer, which is the Black Blood Artist. Like that card has been able to win me combats and like win games. But you do need those like uncommons, like which is pretty interesting for the like that.
The
Also,
aggro deck.
shocking sharpshooter is also a card that's really helpful for that deck.
Oh
But
man,
yeah,
the card's very good.
yeah, the impact tremors thing. But the fact that the aggressive deck needs a lot of uncommons is not a normal thing for aggressive decks to have to deal with. Most of the time, they're winning off the back of like just good commons, great two drops, and like pump spells. And this one's doing different things. Now, I have felt aggression. Like there's certain I think there's certain play styles that need to be changed or tweaked a little bit for these Mardu decks. I think playing cards like Rebellious Strike will be a lot better for them, and they look at that card as like a Jeskai card, but that's pretty
Hmm.
important for Mardu, I think. Because yes, your 1/1s get blocked a lot, so having a combat trick that also draws you a card is really important. Sticking to two colors and then splashing the third is important. Things like
Of
that.
course, yeah.
And making sure that those two colors are either white red or white black, and never black red, basically.
Yeah.
Tends to be, well, that's just kind of a rule with these decks in general anyway, is that the enemy colors are good because you get to play the uncommons are all the uncommon dual colored cards are enemy colored cards, so you
Right.
want to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
into
yeah.
enemy colors anyway. But just little things like that. But I'm saying all that because I also feel that Mardu has not pulled its weight necessarily. It will win in lower tiers, but if you're going up to higher stuff, it just doesn't get there. And there is a lot of life gain. I gain so much goddamn life. Like,
Yeah, and it all feels incidental where it's just like, obviously the Rhino's the perfect example. Where it's like I'm just
yeah.
playing a 3/4 trampler. But I gained 2 life too.
Hmm.
I'm like, ugh. Like
It's like I don't even
that's
care that
like
you
a
dealt
2 for 1
damage.
against the Mardu deck, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. The biggest culprit for this is like the Quarry Mountain dude, the Boros, the Flurry card, where
Oh, Corey Mountain Stalwart. Yeah, it's
Stalwart,
like
yeah,
that card is like if you don't remove that immediately as Mardu, you're
yeah,
probably gonna lose the game.
yeah. Talk about underrated cards, man. That thing's like
And
I
even when
thought
you
it
kill
was
it,
going
it
to be
already
good,
drained
but
you for 2 almost certainly. So
almost every time you're like, okay, make sure we can do this.
yeah.
Um, so it's funny that like the Mardu mobilize thing sometimes has to end the game with like a big dragon at the end, or something like a Sonic Shrieker will help you push everything over the edge because then you get to gain life and deal damage. The Mardu matchups against each other are really interesting because they're all super bizarre and you're doing all this weird stuff. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, counting creatures that have mobilize is like, okay, you're 3 damage, but you're actually 4 damage. I need an extra blocker for this, or all that stuff. I
Yeah,
think they're all quite interesting.
for sure.
As
Um,
compared to like when we were playing MKM and it was just like 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop that makes a token attack, pump everything, win. Like we get a different type of aggro deck that does, like, we needed this in this format to have like an aggro deck that's not perfect, right?
yeah. And maybe we like I just haven't figured out how Mardu is supposed to work right now. Like I just did
Hmm.
the quote unquote obvious thing. Like it's the go wide. It's all the payoffs are telling you to do that. Get the payoffs, get the enablers for the go
Hmm.
wide. That seems like an uphill battle. I think it can work, obviously, but it seems like that's maybe if Mardu is going to be a strong deck in the format, I don't think it's that one. But there might be
Hmm.
some other like sort of more nuanced build of Mardu. Maybe it wants the the Quarry Mountain Stalwarts itself, right? As
Hmm.
ways
It
to get the
does.
reach.
It for sure
Uh,
does.
and that's your game plan is not actually to do the whole like trumpet blast
Hmm.
kind of thing. It's really more like, okay, I'll get in for 10 damage and then I have to find other ways to do the last 10.
Hmm.
Um, I could see that.
Exactly. Like sharpshooter, that's why sharpshooter is good because your mobilized like deals 2 or 3 damage. You want Quarry Mountain Stalwart, you want Sonic Shrieker because all those types of things to have like just extra. This is a creature and it deals damage is super important, and I think people are realizing that as well. Um,
Yeah, and I think, it's my early pick for the deck that it just doesn't come together often. And so you probably don't want to be
mhm.
there, but once in a while the stars will align and you'll just have like the easiest run of your life because you're
Yeah.
just walking over everyone.
Also, piggybacking on that, it's the deck that looks the most open, but might not
Yeah,
be.
right.
So,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot of Jeskai cards that you think aren't for you, but they are,
Yeah, but the
right?
problem is I think Jeskai is quite good. And so
It
if you're
is.
bad, if the good cards in Mardu are cards that Jeskai players want, that's a tough spot to be.
That's true. Jeskai is good, and Flurry, I had predicted that Flurry would be significantly better in draft than sealed, and I'm right, but by a lot. It feels like night and day, you know?
Yeah. I mean, Flurry is just like a lot of the cards, like maybe Corey Bone Stalwart. When you're
Mhm.
in red white, a 3/3 for three is not a great card, but you're not that unhappy with it. And then it just staples this awesome ability to it. So
Mhm.
it's like that's kind of it feels like that was the design on Flurry is like I almost this card is close to being something I want to play anyways.
Mhm.
And then with the flurry, if I ever trigger the flurry one time, it usually only takes one time for you to be really happy with
Oh,
that card.
and Corey Mountain Stalwart, I will
And
trigger that
obviously, yeah,
all day.
yeah.
I'll get two on the battlefield every turn. You play the fleeting effigy. You just get to play double spell constantly. It's
No,
so
that
much
that thing
fun.
is just a must kill.
It's so much fun. Um, just like, and the thing is that you don't even realize that you're winning. You'll just be playing your cards, and then all of a sudden you look up your opponent's at like 6 life, and you're like, "Oh, I was doing
You're
that."
like, oh man, how do I draw this card? And then maybe and they're like, wait,
Hmm.
they're just dead. Never mind, never mind.
Oh,
Nope, just attack.
they're just dead.
Just remove
Like,
their blocker and attack. Got it, got it, got it.
yeah. So I'm very high on that card, as well as like,
Oh, it's
y-
nuts.
yeah, like a lot. There's a lot of good flurry cards, um, that are
I played
just,
against someone who triggered it like three times in a row, or three or four times in a row, by which I mean like on my turns as well. It was just like
oh
in
shit,
every turn. I was like, what is happening to me right now? Like this person is
that's
living the dream.
that's the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Jeskai, the fact that the spells deck, quote unquote, is the one that I love playing because they were smart enough to like you.
Because it's not like
This is
instant sorcery spells. It's just
mhm,
spells.
it just spells,
Yeah.
and they are learning. I think this is not necessarily a new thing that they're doing, but it's something that they're pretty good at now. Is that there is this a time right where it's like, hey, cycling is important in the set, so let's make sure that we put the word cycle on a lot of cards. Not only the ones that do cycling, but we're telling everybody
Like
whenever you
when you
cycle,
cycle. Yeah.
this thing happens. And then they figured out, oh no no, we need to say whenever you discard a card, this happens, because then you can do multiple things and then you can have other cards that don't cycle necessarily, but they do just let you loot or whatever, and then it also triggers your stuff. And so realizing the spells decks, we have had instance and sorcery problems for years. The blue red spells deck has just not come together in draft over and over and
And the
over
reason is
again.
always the same. That limited, you
Hmm.
need creatures, and to
Yeah.
make them not suck, you need spells, and it's so hard to strike that balance. And then even when
Hmm.
you do, you're subject to the variance of your draws to a
Hmm.
greater effect than most limited decks are, which is they're already,
Yeah.
that's already one of the biggest deciding factors of limited is just like how the draws line up.
Exactly. So like you have all these certain things that's like, okay, well, if we give them enchantment and that enchantment pumps out tokens when they play instant, no, 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 I need the enchantment first and then it doesn't work. Okay, well,
Yeah,
we'll just give them an instant and sorcery that just makes a creature. Okay, well, that's just a vanilla creature.
yeah,
Like it doesn't really work out. And this feels like a great spot where it's like it spells but not storm because you only want to do two a turn because otherwise you don't get maximum value and you have to
yeah,
sequence them correctly so it feels like you're doing it, like it feels like you are earning it, right?
yeah.
I know it
This
just
is
feels good.
the sweet spot. I think Flurry will actually just be a thing moving forward.
Yeah.
Like not immediately after this set, But I wouldn't be surprised if in a year or two it's just like the common theme that they go to
Yeah.
for blue red is flurry.
Yeah. I think they really figured it out here. I like this a lot. It's been
It
a lot of fun.
it feels like such an obvious solution now that you play with it. You're like, oh yeah, just remove instant and sorcery. Just like
Yeah.
stop it with the you have to play two instants and sorceries.
Well, this is literally like the same thing as like when they made Landfall. It's like, hey, remember that thing you want to do in your game all the time anyway? That's like just happens.
Yeah,
Let's reward you for that. This is, hey, teaching players playing two spells in a turn is really good, and let's reward you for doing that. Like,
right.
and then you get to do things where it's like, well, this deck only wants to play one thing a turn, but the thing's really big, that kind of stuff.
And it
Having
just
that duality, it's just like you're just playing cards. It's like, hey, if I play two cards, the good things happen. If I play one card, I have to have this big effect. It's just,
right.
I don't know,
You
it's so
don't
simple.
need enablers necessarily, right? You just have payoffs and then you just play cards. And like sure, having enablers is great, like the fleeting skirmisher, whatever it's called.
Fleeting effigy, yeah.
Fleeting effigy. Yeah, that card's clearly designed for this deck. But you don't actually need that. You just need cards that want you to play two spells, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
the other
It's
cards.
I do agree, but fleeting effigy is
Fleeting
my
effigy
boy,
is
buddy.
very, very awesome in this deck.
It
Um,
is. It basically just supercharges everything. It's like a workhorse where it's just like this thing makes sure it's like, hey, were you worried about being able to double spell? Don't worry, I'm going to be able to do it for you. And it also just like fleeting effigy is like the single red 2/2 with haste, and then it returns to your hand every turn. But it also has like really slow fire breathing. But that's one of those things where it's like even on the turns where you can't double spell, at least you can attack and then you can like pump it up really big, right?
yeah,
Like you also don't have to attack with it. It's basically like they took there's a card in Tarkir, the dashing something dasher. It's like a two
yeah,
mana 2/2 that has to attack every turn, and it ended up being important in the aggressive decks. But it was kind of a shitty card. They
yeah,
took that, made it cheaper, supercharged it, and let you bring it back to your hand, which was a plus.
yeah, yeah.
I guess it's like it reminds me of Tarkir because of that card. It's really more like the samurai from Kamigawa that also came back to your hand, but this one's way better.
Yeah, this one's awesome. I feel like it didn't even need the fire breathing. I've never actually seen that be relevant personally, but I know that there will be times when it is. But I have
It's
opponents
yeah.
that like play this and they won't attack into my 4/4 or whatever because they know if they do that, I will snap block and they will pay all their mana to
Mhm.
like pump this and then lose it. And so they're like, I'm not even going to trade my 1/1 for my 1 drop for your 4 drop because I value my 1 drop higher. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
because it's so true because your one drop is so important for your entire game plan, right?
yeah.
Where
So
like
it's
you're
like if you attack, I'm blocking, dude. I know you can
mhm.
fire breathe and trade for, and trade up in card quality or allegedly or
Or
whatever.
no. That's because
Card mana value, I guess.
the effigy is really
But
good.
then they like pause on their attack deck for a while, then no attacks. They're like,
No
I'm
attacks.
worried he'll block. And I'm like, I was gonna block. Yeah.
Yeah, snap block.
Yeah.
Always
No
block if you
question.
can.
No
Yeah.
question my Rhino is blocking your fleeting effigy. Absolutely.
hmm Big fan of that. But I will say, basically, where I'm at with the format is just kind of like everything feels great, though Mardu does feel more open than other things. But I think that's just because it hasn't been as easy as maybe they thought, right?
Yeah, it's like the
It's
reverse of other limited formats where it's like you
yeah,
can usually pick up some free wins just by being aggro when everyone else is dirtling. Now it's like the way the set is designed, it feels like aggro's the tough one to figure out. And
mhm,
the dirtling is easy because everything feels like it gains life and
yeah,
is huge and there's lots of efficient removal.
yeah. I like literally today. I played a little bit of Mardu today, and there was one situation where like I was against another Mardu deck and we were jockeying for position the whole time. They swung out. I ended up at one or something from my different blocks or whatever. And I ended up like just slamming a second war effort, and then I had one other creature, so I could attack. It was huge. I was trying to get them down to 0. They were almost completely tapped out, except for they had a ration city, the black rare land,
Yeah.
and a bunch of white sources. So I was like, sweet, they can't do anything. It'll be fine. Turns out they had a Mardu devotee on the battlefield. They thought they were
Oh,
dead,
sneaky,
but
sneaky.
they thought they were dead as well because they said oops, and then they were like looking back and forth, and then they tapped it and made a 1/1
The
blocker. They got to
classic
chump.
arena tells you can do something. Yeah.
I know, and they would have just died because they thought that they had
In
lethal the
paper,
turn
they just scoop that
before.
up, right? But yeah.
Exactly. But like the filter thing on the devotees ended up coming in clutch that time, and they ended up being able to chump one of
They're
my
probably like, man, I could have been
dudes.
making one ones every turn. I just forgot I had this devotee.
I think they had made one before, yeah, but they hadn't like it wasn't the way that the game worked out. It wasn't super important because they also had the white one, so they were trying to figure out do I also make
Mm.
like ones to attack, or it was a really complicated board state.
This is literally my struggle in standard. I'm like, which of
Mhm.
these two lands do I activate? Yeah.
It I think all of the lands have been so exciting, except for the blue one. But like the other ones, I've been seeing them often, and I've just been, yep, these are great for my deck too. Like
Oh
I'm
yeah,
just I'm
like
just
gotta
happy for
take them.
these.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but that's the last thing I want to say before we move on to standard and we're going into other things is that I think that the mana fixing of the devotee cycle actually matters. It's better than I thought, and I'm mad about it.
Yeah.
But I thought basically all those cards were hot garbage, trashy trash, besides the
I
green
think the
one.
Sultai one is legitimately just good.
The green one's good because it's a
Yeah.
real creature.
Yeah.
But the actual filtering has come in handy a few times where I have like a hand that's like, ooh, this is pretty sketchy. And I'm like, wait, I am playing that 2 mana 2/2. Okay, well, it does just fix things. Or the biggest one is like in Jeskai, it's like, well, I need a double spell, but I have 2 white spells. I'm like, well, I do have the Jeskai devotee, so that actually does let me do that. Oh, okay. I only have 1 white source, but I need 2. But this helps me with that bridge because that's happened multiple times where it's like I need a double spell, but I only have 1 blue land. Like that stuff happens constantly. So
Right.
the I'm it just though it just helps. It just helps. Even though the card feels crummy, I don't know. I gave them really bad grades in my set review, besides the green one, and I'm pulling them back a little bit. They are actually helpful.
I still think though that like one, it's that you thought they were bad and they're, you know, maybe you thought they were like D's and they're
Mhm.
C minus or D
See,
plus kind of thing,
that's
you know,
that's
like
that, that's what they are. Yeah.
and I think it part of that is the early format deck building too, where it's like, I didn't necessarily build my deck correctly, but I have this thing here that
That's
helps me
true.
kind of
That's
get out of
true.
that. So I think we'll probably land on like you don't want to be playing these,
Yeah.
but they're not useless. Sometimes you will end up with a deck that didn't get there on the fixing. You'll have a
Hmm.
few of these in your pile. You're like,
And they
okay,
will.
there we
We
go.
got to play him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I all right. That makes me feel better because that's exactly where I was kind of at. Where I was like, I think these are pretty bad. You will play them when you have to, but you hope that you never have to. Besides the green one,
Yeah, the
and that
green
you
one's
want.
just fine, right? Like
It's
2/1
just a great
death touch
creature.
that then
Yeah.
helps you with your mana. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. That's just extra flavor text.
Yeah.
But you would like if you're sitting in a pack that has like a dual land of your colors and a devotee, you take the land.
Oh
You
yeah.
want your
Yeah.
lands to fix your
It's
colors
yeah, it's not even
always.
close.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's not even a close pick. You take the
Yeah.
land, yeah.
You take the land. So anyway, yeah, literally looking at some of my sealed pools, it was like, all right, so I have like 8 tapped lands, but they fix my colors so well. It's like, is that too many? No. All right, I'll just
It
have
is
perfect
not.
mana. I will
Yeah,
have great mana, and I will never worry about playing my cards. And it was fantastic, and I loved it, and it was
of
exactly what I wanted.
course. Yeah, you basically want as many as you can get.
Yeah, they're so good.
Um, so I have a final
Okay.
topic to end on before we move away from limited. Although I think this seems like this has the makings to potentially be really solid limited format, like
Mm.
up there with some of the best ones we've seen
All right.
recently.
So we should just snap up as many boxes as we can, right? Just to
Yeah,
make sure
exactly. That's the
before
only
we move
strategy.
into Universes Beyond world.
Well, we'll just win a couple of these,
Arena direct
like
events.
yeah, the
Yeah.
direct
Oh yeah,
events.
yeah. Because Jeff has some
It's
boxes
yeah,
coming to him.
it
Yeah,
never
yeah.
happens. Um, but I have found in my limited experience, two drafts. Often we have this really awesome back and forth game, super tight, like, you know, this card trades here. Oh, there's a removal spell there, whatever. A lot of the cards are super good, and we're just having this like tight, sometimes it's a bit of a race, sometimes it's a bit of a like guessing game. But then some like rare will come down and basically trivialize the game. That's been mostly my experience. So, have you felt the same? Is this a Prince format or is it a Pauper
Oh,
format?
from the like couple days I've played, it hasn't necessarily felt like a Prince format to me.
Okay.
I don't feel like there's that one rare that I'm like you have besides Elspeth. Elspeth is
Well, yeah.
well, okay, so yeah, both of the
Elspeth is
planeswalkers,
fucking
obviously.
nuts.
Elspeth is nuts,
Yeah.
and Ugin is obviously nuts as well, especially because there's a dragon rare in white that says activated abilities of planeswalkers can't be activated. But I literally got Ugined. I played that dragon afterwards. Its activated abilities can't
They just
work, but
play a
they
colorless spell, right?
and that's literally what happened next. They played a color spell, exiled my dragon, and then used their Ugin. And I was like, okay, well,
So the counter to Ugin doesn't even work.
it doesn't even work. So I was like, fuck this. So I just like obviously scooped that game. But playing with Elspeth and against Elspeth, that card's busted.
You
When
have to be so far ahead for your opponent to cast Elspeth and you still win.
yeah,
Like
because we don't
you
have easy ways to kill planeswalkers. Like they're all triple colored. They're in rare. It's
yeah.
like so hard.
I guess like
So
coordinated maneuver will sometimes work but again, you have to be so far ahead.
it's true. You have to be very far ahead for some of those things. And Elspeth comes down, makes a bunch of dudes. I had somebody playing the white Dragonstorm that made 4/2/2s. I was like, you gotta be
Oh,
fucking kidding me. I was
gross.
like, God damn.
I
Like
mean, come on, that's pretty sick.
I had like I had six creatures on their empty board. They play that, they get 4/2/2s, they get two more 1/1s. I'm like,
Yeah.
you
And
cleanly block
next turn
everything.
all of those are getting counters.
Yeah, and then they just killed me in the air. I was like, well, okay, that was the worst. And so it's pretty. I mean, I was playing Mardu, but like it was pretty brutal. But besides those specific ones, like most of the dragons, I haven't faced against Ureni. But some of the other dragons, like Teval, which is the Sultai one, I always just seem to have like a removal spell in my hand ready for it. I'm like ready for a bunch of them. It's when you have to deal with like the uncommon ones that are like, oh god, this card's just good enough that I have to kill it right now. And then they play the big one, and you're like, that feels awful. Where I kill the little one and then you play the big one right after. So I do think you have to pick your points, but it doesn't have the same feeling as like Crimson Vow, where it was like Tox roll, do this thing, all your things get -1/-1, or that hexproof werewolf thing that has hexproof and then flips and then gives all your shit hexproof and +2/+2 or whatever. Like that was horrendous. Like those were awful bombs. I don't feel the same way with these yet. Until I play enough games where somebody slams an Elspeth, then I'm gonna be like, okay, let's just all right, we're done. We're done with this.
Yeah. I've had a little like more. It does feel like a lot of my games are just decided by someone slamming a rare. Like the
Hmm.
Mardu game I was talking about, my opponent just played Corsi Revenant, which is the one black black 3/3 flying death touch lifelink with renew to give
That
flying death
card's
touch lifelink to another thing.
hmm
And so that card alone gained them like 12 life. And so it's just like because they put it on some other flyer,
hmm
and it's just like, okay,
It's
well, I guess you drew that card and like
hmm
fuck me, right? Like I don't know what else. I killed it. I don't. It didn't matter.
yeah.
So
That card is sweet, but can also be mismanaged as well. But Like if people try to renew it at the wrong time when you have open mana, you can kill the thing. Blah 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 blah. But
And then some of the
yes,
sieges come down, and you're just like, oh, fuck me,
okay,
cool. Like,
yeah, it definitely Baron Step Siege, the white black one.
right? Like
Yeah,
that one got me.
that
And I
one
was
is
just like, so
very
what does this
good
do? Oh, plus almost like counter on each creature you control.
every turn. Yeah, I've been able to attack with my like 1/1 token that ended up being a 7/7 just because it sat there.
Right? Like, um,
Maybe it's because I've been on the bomb side of
yeah,
it where
you're
I'm
the
like
one with the bombs. You're like, nah,
I'm
it's not
like
Prince format. It's my skill.
yeah, obviously I'm very good
I'm
at
over
this.
here with my comments being like, well, can't beat that.
Yeah.
Um, what was
So
the yeah?
I
There was another egregious one. Like, well, with the Crater Hoof, I got Crater Hoofed. And I was like,
oh
well,
I,
okay, come on.
okay, I also have gotten crater hoofed and I also that feeling of just like, well, I guess I just die.
Yeah, fuck
Um
me, I guess. Like,
yeah. But I've also played decks where I had crater hoof and I'm like I can't cast it or I had to block with all my creatures the turn before I could play it, so now it's worthless, you know.
yeah, it is
So
8 mana to be fair. You should probably
double
should win the game in limited for five
triple
green, green,
green.
green.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, today I played a deck that was both, it had Crater Hoof and Death Begets Life, and I think that that was a big mistake to have both of those cards in my deck. Which Death Begets Life is the 8 mana destroy everything.
that's more 8 drops than I usually play.
Well, it's two
And
eight
yeah,
drops
those two cards like
don't
want.
work together.
Yeah.
I was like, but let's try it. Let's just see. Sometimes I want this one, sometimes I want that one. And most of the time, I couldn't play either.
Yeah.
So that was how that worked out. But Jeff, we've been talking a lot about limited, which obviously is my favorite.
Parination
So
also, by the way, fuck that card too. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I've lost to a lot of
Parination, at least you need something in the graveyard, like that's good. But
yeah.
it is a
Yeah,
good
I
card.
mean, the set enables like mill and discard. Like it's very easy.
But at least it's not just like Parination with at least omens shuffle a bunch of stuff
Yeah, at
out.
least they have Omen. You're right. Yeah, there we go. Full
Yeah,
circle.
so that helps a little bit.
Yeah, so hoping it's just variants. I don't necessarily think being a Prince format is a bad thing, by the way. I just think like
Hmm.
that's been my experience so far. It's been slightly frustrating because the so far the statistics have skewed towards like it always feels like we're having a great match and then I lose because of some rare. I haven't been on the other side of it enough to be
Mm,
like balanced out yet. Um, and so right now I'm just like fucking rares in this set. Like, come on. Like
yeah,
all of my
I mean,
1/1
okay,
mobilized tokens can't fight through these rares. What's going
it's true.
on?
I have been thinking now that you're talking about that. I'm looking at some of these other rares like Jeskai Revelation. I've got blown out by that card, where you're like, wow,
They're all so good, man. And it's a multicolor set. So like what
mhm,
do you expect, right? Multicolor rare is gonna do multicolor rare things.
yeah. But I have also been able to just beat people down with other things and survive through certain stuff that I it hasn't felt like that to me, but I've also been the one that played Flayed Hold Grappler, which is the Jeskai 3/3 first strike. The next thing gets copied, and then play the what is Seeker of the Skies or whatever, the white one. Um, that like if it's the second spell, it copies itself. Sage of the Skies.
Yeah.
So then I get 3 copies. So I had
Yeah.
like, yeah, this like I have a 3/3 first striker and 3/2/3 flying lifelink creatures for 6 mana. It was pretty good.
Not
So
bad. Not bad.
like, okay, so maybe I'm biased. Maybe I've been, you know,
Lifelink
they
too, right? Those
yeah,
ones.
they're pretty good. Anyway, so that was probably that was just like a lot of fun. But overall, this format has been a lot of like I'm very excited to continue playing this format. Which obviously it's only like day 3 or whatever, so
It
that's
is
great.
fun. And a lot of the rares like that are powerful that I lose to, the exact way to explain it, but like they're big splashy rares that are more fun than
Hmm.
like I don't know, some rares that like lock you out of the game kind of feeling.
It's
Like they're
true.
really powerful, but it's not a fun way to lose. Sometimes you're just like, all right, I got Crater Hoofed. Like that was sick.
Mm.
I just took 68 damage.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
like the one of the turns where like I got crater hoofed, my opponent had played this big dragon and done this stuff, and then tapped their dragon to harmonize their roamer's routine, which is the ramp spell. And I was like, why
yeah.
would they? I had creatures. I was like, why are you tapping to ramp for a
What a
forest?
dummy!
What
Attack
an
all.
idiot. And that's basically what happened, where I was
Yeah,
like, okay, they're going to take a big hit of damage this turn, not thinking, why would they ever do that?
right.
And then they hit me with Crater Hoof. I'm like, that's why. And I had a
That's
removal
funny.
spell in my hand. And I was like, if I just held up my removal spell and my blockers, I would have been able to not die. But
Yeah.
instead, I
You need
just
to get Crater Hoofed a few times before you can start to make the
start
play
to
where you're
parse
holding
that
up
out.
removal. Like,
Yeah.
but like removal is not even that good against Crater Hoof, right? So it would have
I guess like
had
I
to.
was in a spot where like I could have survived, where
It
I
would have been
block enough
exactly
stuff,
enough.
and
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, where it's like I wouldn't have died, but like, and then maybe I can find something from there. But yes, you're right. Like
Often
removal
surviving
for
Crater Hoof just means you lose the next turn, like
it's
because
true.
you're not
You're right.
trading,
You're
you're
right.
you're chump
You're just
blocking
chumping.
en masse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could gang block one thing, kill one other thing, and then you don't have a board.
You could
And
maybe
then
sneak out of it and have enough on the counterattack. Like that's what you got to
yeah,
hope for, but
yeah. But yeah, if you have a counter spell, you hope to be able to counter the Crater Hoof.
yeah,
But
that's ideal.
or at least hold up mana so your opponent thinks, you know, if
That's
you're
when you
playing a
need
blue
Jwari
deck.
Disruption, man. Gotcha.
We got a way better one. Way
How
better.
dare you? How dare you?
Yeah, I know, I know. But anyway, Jeff, we're going to talk more about Limit next week. We've already talked about a lot of other things besides our Worthless slots, which is one of our favorite things for First Sips episodes. We are getting into something, it's a tradition. We do this with every set. And yeah, Jeff, do you want to talk about what Worthless slots are? Because you're so good at explaining it.
Yes, when a new set, well, thank you. When a new
Hmm.
set comes out, I know if you're like me, you're wondering which of these cards is worth spending my hard-earned wild cards on. Well,
Hmm.
Zach and I are here to list some cards for you that we do not guarantee are actually worth wild card slots, but we do our best because it's
Hmm.
challenging. And so what we do is we pick a layup, one that we are absolutely sure you will not be that disappointed about spending your wild cards on. A three-pointer is something that could get there. If you're really excited about this card, you want to build a deck around it, we think that's reasonable. But understand that it may not get there. And a half court shot is basically just cards that we kind of like, but know probably aren't good enough to crack into the competitive, constructed metagame. Then, just for fun, we throw in an overrated card and an underrated card because it lets us vent, and that's
Hmm.
awesome.
It is awesome. I think that you started last time. Is that correct?
I
I
feel
actually can't
like
remember.
you say this every time just so you can start, but yeah, it works again. I guess I probably did.
Yeah. Um, so I'll go first, just so I can get mine off my chest and Jeff can't steal it. That's my little trick there. You weren't going to steal this anyway, and you already know what this is, so it doesn't really matter. Um,
Yes,
obviously, I'm talking
Tempest
about.
Hawk.
God damn it, Jeff! I thought we could get through the whole episode without you talking about the stupid Tempest Hawk. No, not
Zach's
Tempest
favorite
Hawk.
white comic.
It's not my favorite white common. Oh, anyway, I was going for something and now it's all ruined. Anyway,
Oh,
whatever.
sorry.
Did we talk about what the different things are? The layup, the three pointer. Do we said that already?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I was not paying attention. All right, so my layup for the set, the easy one, is Corey Steel Cutter. Obviously, I
Yeah.
talked about this last week, but I'm going to bring it up again. It's one in a red for an artifact equipment at rare. It says equipped a creature gets +1/+1, has trample and haste. It also has flurry, which says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess. You may attach this equipment to it, and you can equip for one and a red. All the things I said about last week are still true. Flurry is really exciting mechanic, really interesting for these types of decks. This is like board wipe proof. It helps you like it just kind of goes into exactly what you want to do. It lets you go wide. All the things that these decks are already trying to do. This just makes it a little bit better, and gives you an edge against some of the weaknesses of your deck. So love this card. It's already like $12
Mhm.
in paper, so it's
Yeah.
skyrocketed, and I think this is definitely something that you could have the flavor of your red deck be. Um,
I've been playing some standard and I've already been absolutely annihilated by this card. So
it is.
I I knew it was good and I respected it, and then it thrashed me, and now I fear it. Now
Mm,
I'm like, oh,
yeah. Give it a watch
not
out.
that card.
Yeah, the blade with the leaves. Watch out.
Yeah.
But super sick card, and definitely worth your rare wild cards. It also goes into
Yes.
my hey, if you're trying to build decks, mono red is a great place to start. If you're a new player, that's what I always say, and this is one of the cards that can go straight into that. So
Yeah.
approved.
Um, cool. It feels weird not to choose Elspeth for this because I think the Elspeth is super, super good and like definitely should see some stand amount of standard play if there's a deck that wants it. But I don't want to talk about Elspeth, so I want to pick a different
Okay.
card, and I'm going to pick Voice of Victory because I've been playing a lot of that,
Okay.
and I put it into my black-white sacrifice deck, which has been so sweet. Um, and this card has just impressed me more and more. So it started out 2 copies and it went to 3, and now we're just on 4. Main
Wow.
deck. Um,
Okay. This
there's
is like
a
real quick. Do you want to read the card?
Yes, good call. Voice of
Mhm.
Victory is 1 and a white for a creature human bard. It's 1/3. It has mobilized 2, and your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. That ability is super annoying in standard right now. And the fact that like it has this very it's reminiscent of Teferi Time uh Raveler,
Oh, sure.
where you
Yeah.
would play this and it's like, okay, any instance you got, you must cast them now. But the thing you want to kill is this, and it's on the stack. So
Yeah.
like,
You
are you gonna
can't.
waste your turn, untap, waste another turn to kill this? Or are you gonna kill something else that doesn't really matter? Um, it like the Pixie deck is always holding up for removal and like counter spells and stuff. And uh obviously the Overlord's deck, even red is usually like they got a burst lightning up their sleeve or something, and it's
That
just
is true.
super annoying. So it just makes them so mana inefficient because they hold something up, you cast this, and they're like, well, uh, I guess my mana just like dies. And then obviously in my deck in particular, having 2 tokens that then get sacrificed every
All the
turn is
time. Yeah.
awesome. And one of my favorite play patterns is this on turn 2 into the uh, something of endurance that like draws a card whenever a cheap creature or low power
Oh,
creature enters the battlefield.
yeah.
It triggers it right away. That's what I like because you play this attack, you get the 1/1s, and you draw a card. And there's not a lot of creatures that you could play on 2 that let you trigger the endurance guy immediately on 3. And so that's
Yes.
just a really sweet curve out. And I think there's just more, even more like of those kinds of little interactions. Like I just happened to jam it into my deck that played those colors and was like, this is super synergistic in a lot of different ways. And I think that's just, I think this card is just better than it looks, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah. I agree with that. The card you're talking about is Enduring Innocence. That
Yes.
draws you the cards when they come into play. But I love that pick. That is something with Mobilize I hadn't really thought of, is like doing the stuff with like Enduring Innocence to be able to draw extra cards. I will say that Voice of Victory pisses me off because we just got Grand Abolisher into Standard last
Yeah,
year.
no,
And a year later, they're like, hey, here's the easier to cast one that actually does more
just
stuff.
much better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so, like, obviously, it doesn't have the activated abilities of creatures and artifacts and enchantments on it. Blah 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 blah.
sure.
So,
But it's 2
but
mana.
like, but it's too. It's both like double white
And you
is.
can often use this to protect, like on turn 4, if you have a 2 drop that you want to protect, or on turn 5, you have a 3 drop you want to protect. You play this first and then play the other one,
And then they can't do
which is
anything. They
especially
have to
important in
counter.
my deck because there's very specific creatures that are must kills for the opponent that make my whole strategy work. And it's just like, well, I'll play this first, and then, my Bartolome is free to do
Hmm.
whatever the hell he wants, or I
For this
finally
turn,
can
yeah.
make the Blood Artist stick
Hmm.
if I play this
And
first. And usually
combo
that's all I
off.
need. I just need that
Yeah.
one turn of you not
Hmm.
killing my Blood Artist to pop off. Yeah.
That's interesting. It as like a combo piece. I kind of like that.
Yeah, or just an aggro piece, or it triggers
Yeah.
like it just does everything. I'm just like, you know
Yeah.
what? I don't know why I'm only playing two of this thing. Like,
That's
that's
I you know what, I'm really happy that you picked that because initially that is one of the cards that I had seen from the set and thought like, hey, this is a card for me. This is the type of card that I really like. I enjoy hate bears. I think they're really interesting. Sue me. I've wanted to make a commander deck that's all hate bears.
yeah.
But I know
Hey,
no one
Hate
will
Bears
ever
is
let me.
sweet, man.
They'll just never let me play with that deck or like I've never built it because I knew that people wouldn't want to play with me.
Hmm.
But I thought this card was super sweet, so I'm glad that you picked it because it's really cool and the type of thing that White needs to lean more into because this is White's strength is these types of effects that they try to get rid,
Yeah.
like shoe under the rug a lot of the time.
And I've seen like, in the content that I consume, I've seen the word like sideboard card thrown around a lot for this. I think
Oh,
people might want to shift that mindset a little bit. I think this card is just good.
yeah.
It's like that ability is at least somewhat useful against every deck in the format, and against some decks, like really, really annoying for
Hmm.
the opponent. Whereas
Absolutely.
I think people are thinking like, oh, it's just good against control because they can't counter stuff now or something. And it's like, now
It's
this
like,
ability is just a good ability.
they're just gonna counter this, like
Yeah.
it's just a good card to have. I don't know. I agree with you, and I like the 1/3 body as opposed to the 2/2 1 from Grand Abolisher a little bit better. But
Yeah. And the 1/3 body does matter too, because like
mhm,
you feel a little better blocking Swift Spears.
mhm,
It has to be Monstrous Rage to get you. And like,
exactly, stuff like that
yeah.
is definitely helpful. Like 1/3 for
I
sure.
think this is much better than if it was a 2/2 in the current
Yes,
limited format. Or
totally.
I don't know about limited. In the
Yeah,
current
yeah, it's the
standard
standard
format.
format. But
Yeah.
also the fact that like what you were saying is that like this is on the stack and your opponent has a removal spell. There isn't a ton of counter spells in the current meta, so you're not necessarily worried about this card getting countered. So that's
Yeah, they're
also
always just
super
like
helpful.
holding cut down and then they can't cast, they have to wait
Hmm.
and do it on their turn. It just makes it really
Hmm.
awkward for them. Even when you just trade card for card,
Hmm.
it made their mana
It,
super awkward.
which is something that people should think more about. So yeah, this is awesome. I'm so happy that you picked this card. Honestly, like
I love this card.
that's great.
I didn't think coming in like this would be a card that one of my favorite cards in the set, but so far that's where we're at.
I love it. So with that, we're gonna snake this. What's your 3 pointer?
Okay, this one I think is a little interesting. Um, yeah, I think this is what I'm going to choose. So I'm
Hmm.
going to go with Auroral Procession.
Oh
So
God. Okay.
this is
Yeah.
actually an uncommon, so it's
Yeah.
weird to
Yeah.
do the whole like wild cards could be spent on this, but let's just
No, it's
reframe it
fine.
as like I think this card might show up.
Hmm.
This is a regrowth effect,
Hmm.
but it is the most pushed regrowth effect I think I've seen ever or in a very long time. This
Hmm.
card is an instant for green and a blue, and it says return target card from your graveyard to your hand. That's it. There's no exile this
Hmm.
afterwards.
Hmm.
There's no return target permanent.
Hmm.
It's literally anything you want at instant speed, and this will hang around in your graveyard for future shenanigans. Normally, there's a bunch of riders on this kind of stuff that's to avoid,
Or is it sorcery? Yeah.
loops or it's a sorcery exactly, or it has
Hmm.
some sort of like you lose 12 life. Um,
Hmm.
but this is
You
just
lose 12 life. 2 mana. Return a land to your hand. You lose 12 life. Yeah.
yeah. This just seems super, super good. I don't think the reason it's like a 3 pointer is like I don't think there's a necessarily obvious home for it right now. Like which
Hmm.
standard deck would want to pick this up and is already just happy to play it. But I could definitely see something emerging where you play this. This kind of reminds me of like how Growth Spiral looked somewhat innocuous, and then when you play against it, you're like, that card's cracked.
Well, it
This
does have
is
the same
not
mana
as
cost,
good. It's
so
not as good as Growth Spiral. I think pretty confident saying that.
definitely not. Definitely
But it
not.
has that same feel of like eventually
Hmm.
we're gonna groan when if there's a deck that plays this card, this is gonna be the groaner of that deck where you're just like, oh, give me a fucking break. They had that.
In
Yeah.
in a deck, if we get to a world like not necessarily past Ghost Vacuum, but in a world where graveyardy decks that want to mill themselves or super mill themselves, like this feels like is demonic tutor the right word? Like if you're milling your whole deck into your graveyard and then you're just spending 2 mana to put one of those cards in your hand, that feels fairly close.
Yeah. And then
Obviously,
you
it's a lot different, but
right.
it the instant speed is the biggest part on this card. If this was a sorcery, I would not care at all.
No, it would be terrible.
It would be
Well,
terrible.
yeah, it would be not really playable and constructed. The fact that you can like respond to them trying to exile something from your graveyard with the
That's
vacuum
true.
and just
Hmm.
pick it up instead is nice. Um, so I think if this ends up being a thing, like you'll get into these staring matches where you're not
Hmm.
activating your ghost vacuum and your opponent's not tapping out of green blue and you're just like
Yeah.
doing that game of chicken. But yeah, this just seems like my brain auto corrected this card like 3 times because like there's no way it just lets you pick up anything at its speed, right? I'm like, yeah, they just said you
Yeah,
can pick up anything at its speed.
it does.
It's not that broken
It's
anymore.
it's so funny to think about because like to me, when I was looking at this for limited purposes, I thought this card was horrendous. Like just like
Yeah.
well, one for one has to be in your graveyard thing is just
In
like
limited,
oh, it
maybe it
feels
could end up being like not shitty because Sultai does self mill,
yeah.
but it just seems like it's you're just working too hard at that
It
point.
just it's just hard when it's like one card gets me one other card as opposed to like most of the time they're 3 mana but they give me 2 cards or maybe more than that.
Yeah.
And the 3 mana 2 card ones for limited are like kind of fine, but like the one from Aether Drift was like okay I could actually play this because I could possibly get 4 cards and so that was where my mind was at. But for standard, I kind of like the idea of having being able to turbo mill a lot faster and better and more efficiently and being able to draw whatever. That's cool. I like that. Okay. I'm on
I'm
board. I'm
even
on board
seeing
with
like
you.
this could just be part of some sort of Bant or Sultai kind of controlling
Oh, yeah,
list.
yeah.
Like you don't even have to be all in on graveyard, right? It's just like
That's
get your
true.
good
You're just
stuff back,
picking
instant
up whatever you
speed,
need. Well, also instant speed, draw your counterspell. That would also if you're doing control, that's kind
right?
of
Like
interesting.
yeah, um, pick up your Teferi. I feel like it's always Teferi in my head, even if Teferi is not
Hmm.
in the format. I'm like they're gonna pick up a fucking Teferi with this, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It just seems like this has the potential to be one of those cards that everybody missed in spoiler season, where it's like, wow, they just like took a card that they had put a bunch of restrictions on because it was too good, and now they just removed all those restrictions and nobody seemed to
Like
notice.
go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Nice. We'll be excited to see if that actually pans out and how that works. Um, my 3 pointer. Now, I also wanted to pick an uncommon, but I feel like it's kind of boring to pick the one that I picked specifically. Not uncommons in general. Sorry, I'm not shading on yours. But the
Wow.
specific one that I
Dude.
picked, I think is a little bit too on the nose that I'm going to pick a card that is like adjacent to it that would want that uncommon in the deck. And that's the reason why this other card would be there. But I think that this will be like I could definitely see this card being played, and it just needs that uncommon to be a part of the deck. Otherwise, it's probably not anything. Um, but I'm talking about Yathan Road Watcher. So this is one white, black, green. So Sultai or Sultai, so Sultai. So
Yeah.
Abzan.
So tight.
So it's one Abzan for a 3/3 creature human scout at rare. It says when this creature enters, if you cast it, mill 4 cards. When you do, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So of course the card that I'm talking about that's the uncommon is Skirmish Rhino. And
Yes.
I originally wanted to pick Skirmish Rhino, but I think that there's a bunch of different things you can do, and I like this build. And this isn't something necessarily I've just obviously come up with myself. I've seen a lot of people have been playing this deck,
People
and
love
specifically
rhinos, man.
rhinos are fantastic. And I want to specifically point out that like Jaffer MTG on Twitch, really sweet streamer, was loves playing Golgari and has been branching out to Abzan stuff as of
Went a
late.
little crazy there,
Has,
Jaffer.
has yeah has been playing this card with rhinos, and so that's where the inspiration has come from. But I think this card is super cool, being like turn three skirmish rhino, drain you for two, and then either that gets killed or you can rumble with them and then play this, mill some stuff, get it back, and constantly like basically just adding what four extra rhinos to your deck because you get to play them from your graveyard with this thing.
Right.
Uh, Fantastic. And also just going into like a pixie build of like play your pixies, pick up your rhinos, recast your rhinos. The rhinos die. Play this, get them back from the graveyard. Play a pixie, pick it up, put it back down. Like
Yeah.
that combination of stuff ends up just being able to win games. And I think that's really cool to the point where I'm like, maybe I want to play this deck in standard
Yeah.
or paper. Like that's how far this has gone. So I think Yathan is like close to the top of your curve, but a pretty interesting piece of that deck where you want a little bit of like your graveyard recursion there. It
Yeah.
does make you mill cards, which I'm kind of almost against in that deck. I'm like,
Right.
well, I don't really want to mill all my cards, but it is pretty cool.
It needs
Uh,
to though, because if you don't have a graveyard, right? Like,
of course, you need
yeah,
something. It would be like just way worse if it wasn't.
you need to roll
Um,
those dice. It actually reminds me a little bit of Collected Company, where
mm,
like your deck is all three or less mana value creatures, and
hmm
you want as many three drops as powerful three drops as you can. That's what the incentive is. This is kind of like Collected Company, but you get like one of your cards is guaranteed to just be a 3/3, and then the
hmm
other one you only get to look at four to find the other one, kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
But
Okay. I never thought
but
about
you
it like
can
that.
like use the graveyard as well, and
To
obviously
your
it's not an
advantage.
instant, which was a massive part of Collected
A
Company.
huge part of
But
collective
like
company.
if you hit a Rhino, obviously is a great example. But if you hit a
Yeah.
three drop off this, that's a lot of like 4 mana for a 3/3, some sort of probably some incidental stuff from milling that your deck cares about, and also a three drop for free. That's a lot of value for four
Hmm
mana. Of course, the problem with the card is the variance, where sometimes you won't hit a three drop, you'll hit a one or a two drop, or nothing. That will
hmm
happen. It's gonna suck, and hopefully you built your deck in such a way that it's unlikely. But like we've all had the opponent that jams Collected Company and then whiffs, and you're like, what? Like did,
It's
did
like,
they just like misclick and click
or like
nothing, or like what happened
they
there?
just literally got nothing. Yeah. Well,
They,
that's kind
they
of
see
what the
they saw like three Collected Companies and three lands. And they're like,
yeah, no,
fuck.
fuck. I'm like kind of the fun part about the pixie build is that if you miss a rhino, you just get a pixie, pick up Yathan, do it again next turn. Like
Fair, yeah. It's an expensive way to do it though. That's a
it is
tough way to
very,
make a
very
living.
expensive. That's true. For two drains, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Like
like a 4 mana 1/1
yeah, yeah.
flag.
Well, it's a 2/2. Okay, you picked up something, so don't
Oh, right,
forget.
right,
Don't
right, right.
forget.
Yeah.
Don't you dare forget you get a counter.
How could I? How could I forget what the pixie does? No,
But
it's
anyway,
a sweet card because I was looking at I opened this once and I was like, oh, I guess we're gonna go Abzan because I got this Abzan run, and I was like,
mhm.
hmm, actually, is this even good in limited? Nah. And then I
It
think I just took
is.
like an uncommon over it. But
Yathan is a great example of, hey, this is a sweet rare that you shouldn't first pick in a draft
right.
because it's
Yeah, it's
not
basically what
what.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You don't like. There are only certain three color cards that you'd be okay with first picking and building your deck around. Yathan's not one of them.
Yeah.
So
I
there's
think I
that.
had that in my mind as like the dream of the rhino. It's
Hmm
like I must live
If
it. I shall
only.
take this. And then I was like, oh,
Mhm.
or I could just take this like super solid,
Dragon
uncommon black
spray or
card or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, just be like, this will just fit in my deck. It'll just work. And let me go into multiple different colors.
But someone
But
took them because it didn't wheel.
That's true. But if you see Yathan fourth pick in your Abzan, you're like, holy shit,
Yes.
yes, you know. So like
Let's windmill that one.
that's the person you want to be.
Yeah.
You open this pack, you're like, can I switch seats with you? Can we just? I want to be over
Hold
there.
on. Swapsies.
Swap seats.
Wait, wait,
Everybody gets
wait. Did
one
you
swap
guys open
seats.
good Abzan cards? I need to know that
Yeah.
before I swap
Let me
seats.
see all of your packs first, and then we'll do it. Um, all right. So Yathan Road Watcher obviously was mine, and then we're moving into our half court shots. Okay. So I will pick an uncommon card, but this feels like such a half court shot, but such a fun deck that I almost want to try to build myself just to see if I can do it. But it was
Okay.
so much fun playing this card in the pre-release that I was like, you know what? I just want to play more of this card if I can. So obviously, I am going to be picking the Breaching Dragonstorm 4 and a red for an
Okay.
enchantment, an
I was like,
uncommon.
is he gonna say Rennie?
No, 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 no. Ireni is in this deck, but the actual card that I think you should get is Breaching Dragonstorm. So this is an uncommon enchantment for 5 mana. It says when this enchantment enters, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast it without paying its mana cost if that spell's mana value is 8 or less. If you don't, put it into your hand. It says, whenever a dragon you control enters, return this enchantment to its owner's hand, just like all the other Dragon Storms. But this is basically just a Cascade type card, except for it says Cascade 8, essentially. Or whatever. What was the one from Ixalan? Like Discover 8. Yeah. That's what it does. It casts everything, just about. It even casts Dracogenesis. If you want to do that type of stuff. We don't, actually. In Standard, we are not interested in that card. But casting other dragons that happen to have, I don't know, some sort of omens or something that come on the battlefield, pick this back up. Casting things like, I don't know, tigers that then we get to play. This probably won't happen in Standard because I don't think we want to cast this. Hope to get an iridescent tiger that then gives us mana to play a dragon to pick this back up. But those are the kinds of things that can happen in limited that are really exciting. But just the fact that we have this 5 mana, let's spin the wheel, try to get something good. If there's a fun deck you can build with a bunch of omen dragons and then this thing to play shit for free, and then like pick it up and recast it and keep doing that and spin the wheel, sounds like a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
don't. It kind of it reminds me a little bit of the like if it was actually legitimate the fun I had playing that like Teamer Lands deck that ended up being really good, where you fireball them in the face after picking up all your new Capena lands and putting them on the battlefield
Yeah,
over
yeah,
and over
yeah.
again. That's what I would hope for this, and then maybe you can play your Rennie or something else. But I like that this is here, and I've been a champion of this. I've said that I've liked this Dragonstorm the most of all the Dragonstorms since the beginning, and that's for the fun factor, and it is a lot of fun. But it has a huge deck building restriction of you really
Yeah.
don't want cheap cards that do nothing late game. You want all of your cheap cards to also happen to be big cards. So
Right.
whether that means you're also playing other cards, like I don't know. You obviously you could play like beans in this deck and try to do some other stuff with it, where you're doing like
Yeah.
overlord
Or
type
just play
thing.
beans because it's busted.
Yeah. And then when you play this, you also get to draw a card, and then you get to go find something, and then blah, 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 all that type of stuff. But I think there's something here that looks really fun. And I would really love to play a Breaching Dragonstorm deck in Standard that won 50% of the time. If you could win around that, that'd be fantastic. You know what I mean? It looks like a lot of fun. And that's why it's my half court shot, because I don't think it's going to be like, I don't think this is going to go to the Pro Tour, but I just want to see
Right.
it on the ladder with someone else. Like, I want to see somebody else playing it against me and be like, yeah, you did it. That's what I want.
Nice. I love that pick. That's a great pick because like the deck, it reminds me slightly of the Hippo companion that like You could only
Oh
play
God,
three
yeah.
plus CMC
Hmm.
stuff, but then everyone cheated it with like bone crushers and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So it was like, well, I feel like the deck building restriction here was meant to be larger than it actually ended up being. And so this card ended up just being pretty good.
Hmm.
But it feels like a bit like that, where it's like asking that everything in your deck is big and awesome, and you have to try to find a way to cheat that. Um, so awesome pick plus dragons, theme of the set, all that.
Hmm. Hmm.
My pick, I'm not sure about. It feels a little too spiky to be my half court shot, but fuck it. I
Okay.
just picked it anyways. Because I don't think it's actually going to get there. I suspect this probably could have been something I'd pick for overrated too, because I suspect people like this card. But I haven't actually seen people talk about it. So the
Okay.
card I picked is Songcrafter Mage. So this is green, blue, red for a 3/2
Hmm.
flash. When it enters, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains Harmonize until end of turn. Its Harmonize cost is equal to its mana cost. So
Hmm.
this is meant to be reminiscent, of course, of Snapcaster Mage.
Hmm.
Um, it gives it Harmonize instead of Flashback, which is slightly better because this
Hmm.
card itself can help cast the Harmonize, but it costs one more mana.
And
And
three colors,
then
but
and across three colors, so it's much
hmm.
more difficult to cast. And I think beyond that, I'm not even sure Snapcaster Mage is like the powerhouse, in standard that it even once was in modern kind of thing. Uh, but I like what they've done here. Like I think this is a really cool design, giving something harmonized that isn't self a creature that's a play on Snapcaster
Hmm.
Mage. And so if there is some sort of like teamer control kind of shell. Maybe I just want a teamer control deck because the the Auroral card as well.
Oh,
Um,
that's true.
it kind of plays in a similar deck that you might want this. You probably even cast the Auroral card from this to go pick up another one of these. Um,
Yeah.
but
It
to just
unfortunately it
chain
doesn't.
this.
Yeah, you can chain them. Unfortunately, the harmonized part doesn't help because you can't tap
Uh,
anything to cast
Whatever. It's only
that.
5 mana at that point. It's only green,
Yeah,
green, blue, blue, red.
yeah. It's like an ultimatum.
Yeah. And almost as powerful. You're left with a 3/2 at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, like if that was a thing, I could see this card doing something, being fun. I just
Hmm.
like the design on it. I wanted to talk about it. And I think probably, it's realistic to put like I said it's too spiky because it's kind of like in that Snapcaster realm of like
Hmm.
giving stuff flashback, but I don't think it's pushed enough really to actually see competitive play. But
Yeah.
it could be one of those ones I'm just wrong about, and later I'm like, why would they design this card? It's too good.
No, no, I think you're
It's
right. I think you're right. I almost picked this for my overrated cards. So like
right
I think that
because
people got really excited by it because of the things.
they
But
always
if
do, right? When
Mhm.
they do an homage to an old card that was super
Yeah,
powerful, people
totally,
love
totally.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like, but Skirmish Rhino is like really good though. Like that's
Yeah,
a
that one's
great
actually
card.
good.
Yeah,
That one's
that
actually
that
good.
one's actually good. And
Well, that
this
one's
one,
actually debatable whether or not it's better than Siege Rhino, right? Because it costs a full mana less.
yeah, it's true. And the body doesn't matter all that much, and the drain is just as good,
It's
basically.
strained. Yeah, it's only one less on the drain. So
Hmm.
I don't know. One mana is a lot in constructed,
Mana is a lot more important sometimes
and
than
3 is an important cutoff for creatures. So
that is true because it does help. Because then just collected company, you could also
yeah,
play it in those decks.
there's no Yathan Siege Rhino nonsense
That's
that you
true.
can get up to.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. Um, But yeah, I think Songcraft for a Mage, the mana cost of this card is what threw me off of it, and that's what makes it a half court for me. If
Yeah, same.
this was like it just pushes you in such a specific direction, it would be really cool to see the exact harmonized card that you're really excited or the spell that you're milling, whether it obviously doesn't have harmonized because you're going to give it to it. But what's the spell that's so important that you get to cast? That is exactly like a color and three. So it costs one mana. So you can do this on turn four. Well, maybe not turn four, but it costs four mana.
Yeah.
like I want to see that combo. What's the thing where you tap this to do it? And I
Right.
somebody find
Collecting
that for
company
us. Oh, okay.
to hit another
That
one of these.
that's true. To then,
And then
uh,
discard wants instance and sorceries and collecting
yeah,
company wants
and
creatures.
with creatures, yeah. So I don't know about that one, but I'm excited to see what else this could do. But it definitely feels like a half court shot to me. And if a deck is built around this, like I could see this going to the Pro Tour, but it's a crazy deck that everybody's so excited to see. You know what
Right.
I
It's
mean?
like some sort of weird combo that Matt Nass figured out.
Exactly. And they were
Yeah.
like, and then it blows up, and then everyone's
And then
like,
everyone's like, how
how?
could they print this? It's
Exactly.
obviously busted. Yeah.
And you're like, of course not. Like, sorry that this card from Dominaria United works well with this or whatever. You know?
What I like about it though is Snapcaster was always like you want to play a lot of one mana stuff. Like you want super
Hmm.
cheap things. And this is almost saying the opposite. Like you want
Yeah.
big impactful spells, and
Hmm.
I'm letting you cast those quote unquote for free because I cost 3 and I'll help pay for 3.
Yeah.
And so like you want to play this on like turn 6 where you
Hmm.
get the 3/2 that lets you get back a powerful 5 or 6 mana spell.
Yeah.
Um,
Or it's like some mid stuff that what's the most powerful 5 mana spell or 4 mana spell that you can play that works well with this? I
Right,
I
yeah.
guess that's
But
what
it
I'm
doesn't
interested in,
really
but
want you to hit lightning bolt, but you can,
no.
like on turn 4, do a
Yeah.
lightning bolt kind of thing. But you're not taking advantage of the harmonize at that point.
Exactly. And it's not a classic like, yeah, snap bolt or snap counter. Like this
Yeah.
is like song elephant or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're guessing
I
out
don't
of the
know what
graveyard,
it
but
is, but
yeah, but it's something.
yeah.
But no, I like this. I like that pick for a half court. I think that's good. Do you have any overrated cards that you want to talk about?
So I'm not super dialed into what cards people are talking about. So I'll just go based off what we talked about last week. And so I
Hmm.
think the card that jumps out to me, because you were talking about how many people are psyched about this card, is Mistrise Village. Like,
Hmm.
I think this card obviously is pretty good. So I mean, this is the blue land for constructed, but it taps to add blue. Blue to tap. Next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. I don't know. This feels very specific though. Like I think I talked about it last week, so I won't go into too much detail, but it's like it's asking you to be in like a blue mirror to
Hmm.
be super relevant. Which obviously legacy players are like, well, every deck has to play blue in legacy to compete.
Hmm.
So of course we love this card. But then I think I see people getting excited. Like I've seen comments about how this is going to put like Azorius control, to tier 1 in standard. And I'm like, why?
Why?
Like, what is it good against in standard?
We just said that nobody counter stuff in standard. What are we talking about?
Right, like this is just bad Cavern of Souls for
Hmm.
most decks in standard kind of thing. Because like the stuff you want to not be countered is big creatures.
Yeah, and they're all
Like
avatars
you're,
anyway. So
yeah,
like,
right. Where this is really good in like counterspell mirrors, where you're just
mhm,
like, oh, I have the final say.
yeah.
You cannot
Honestly,
counter my
I
counter.
saw this classic sideboard card.
Right, like classic card I'm just never gonna play.
Yeah, this is like I think in paper is like close to $40 or something. I was just looking that up and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right for what people would say, but not. I think this will play well in all of those older formats, but for Arena, I don't think you necessarily need this card.
Feels like
Like,
just legacy, right? Unless I'm missing
yeah,
something. I don't really understand where this is going.
CADH, and I think the Commander
Sure.
in C,
Sure.
yeah,
Okay,
that
sure.
that does drive card prices a lot, honestly.
That
But
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
So your broken combo just can't be interacted with.
exactly,
Yeah.
or at least one part of it.
Right.
Because at least in CDH, your entire thing is all about like if you can combo on top of somebody else's combo, that's how you win.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think that's great. I think it's pretty overrated and the worst of the bunch as far as like what we're concerned with, which is draft and standard. So yeah,
Even
not
Explorer or like Pioneer,
mhm.
don't
Like
see
what
this
is
being
this?
great there.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe like
if anything in Pioneer, this goes in the stupid Lotus Field deck to protect their combo.
Sure. Yeah.
And I hate that.
Yeah. But like they also need to combo on the turn they can combo, right? Like they can't really afford to wait most of the time.
Right.
Um,
So it might not
anyway,
even be worth it.
well, who knows? I mean, but yeah, I
Oh,
agree that like
yeah.
I agree with you. I'm ready for this to be your Beseju. So um,
Yeah.
we'll talk about this in a year and be like, can't you
Yeah.
believe you thought this was
You
overrated?
thought that card was overrated? What are you, an
Yeah.
idiot?
What are you, an idiot? Spoiler from 2 years ago or whatever. I
Yeah.
said that Beseju was overrated. So there we
It
go.
was so
That's so good.
good.
I just said you only wanted one copy, but in fact you needed more, possibly. It was also whatever. I'm not going to get back into that. I have an
Yeah.
overrated card that is actually overrated and is going to be for sure. Which is another. I just think that this card is not like I don't know if this is just a like limited brain kind of happening with all this stuff, but I think that this card does not do what everybody wants it to do. It looks like it's great for the deck that it's supposed to be in, but
Okay.
is it? I don't know. So I'm
Let's
going to
hear
pick
it.
Felithar, Dawn of the Abzan, which is white, black, green for a Sultai. I mean Abzan card. It's a
Classic.
3/3 legendary creature, human warrior rare. It has trample. It says whenever Felithar enters or attacks, you may sacrifice a non-land permanent. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control.
Oh, this card. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds very powerful. Like, sick, I'm going to do this whole thing. I just have to sacrifice one thing and then my whole team gets +1/+1 counters. But, like, if I've ever had this unlimited, which is multiple times, it was
Yeah.
just pretty trash. Like, I almost
No.
wanted to run this out first because they'd kill it and then I could play something else that mattered. Because this thing just didn't. It enters. I don't want to sacrifice anything because I only have one or two other creatures
And it's limited.
and
Like
it's limited.
I paid for these creatures, you know?
Exactly. In standard, I don't know if this is like, oh, I'll sacrifice my what are you playing in this deck that's not a creature? Like,
No. I think like it's this card's only good when you already have so many things going right for you, right? Like I
yeah.
have a ton of creatures that this pump is
Hmm.
super meaningful, and I have some expendable ones that I want to sack. And
Like,
this card
but
sucks on an empty board.
yeah, this is like, okay, if you play whatever, the new Thraben Inspector, sacrifice the clue, I guess, but then you lost a card for
Right.
counters on your stuff. I don't know.
Just to
I just
make your thing a 2/3. It's, you know.
I just keep seeing this card as like, oh, I'm supposed to be Abzan. I'm like, I think this card's not very good.
I
It's
I don't think it's very good either. I might like if I'm already Abzan, I might take it and I feel really good about my mana. But even
mhm.
then I probably
I just like I've even had it
I don't
as
know.
like I had it in that seal that was busted, and I was like, this card kind of sucks actually. Like, what am
Right.
I sacrificing? Like I've seen people sacrifice like Dragonstorms. They're like, oh, I don't have any more dragons, so I'll just sacrifice that. I was like, that's kind of okay, but the Dragonstorm is only
Yeah.
good because you thought it was going to be played again. I don't know.
Right.
I just thought this is definitely not a card that you open and say, I'm going into Abzan. And
No,
I
no, no.
don't even know if you really want it in other decks either, because then your Abzan, all your creatures are like, okay, I'm gonna make my 1/1 spirit so I can sacrifice it to give everything else counters, I guess. But you can
The
only
question
trigger
I
it
have
so many times, is the thing.
question I have for this is can you stack it the way you want to, where with mobilize?
Mm.
If you attack with this and a mobilized creature, can you stack it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you can because it doesn't target. If it
Mhm.
targeted something, it wouldn't work because you would to even put it on the stack, you would have to select targets. But the way it's worded, it does work with mobilize, where you
Mhm.
mobilize
You can.
first and then you sack the mobilize thing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's
Um,
the idea. This actually wants to be in like a white black mobilize,
mobilized deck. I
and
can
that
see that.
splashes this.
Not even splashes this, but like your white black. Yeah, okay, sorry. White black splash green. So you're our Abzan, but like ultimately white black. Yes, but the biggest thing is that like you want to play this and you want something to happen when you play this. And most of the time you're going to play this card, it'll die because it dies to all the exhales basically. And you're like, cool. All right. So then
Again, I guess like your mobilized tokens survive combat, and then you play
then
this
you
is the
cast it, I
idea.
guess.
Yeah.
But like they never survive combat.
They
So like
don't, yeah.
what do you
Unless you have
expect?
like the ox or something. It just make you just have to make like
Yeah, too
something
many.
where it has to be at least mobilized too.
Or you're playing against an opponent who's not doing anything. So
Yeah, well, in that case, the card's great.
yeah, in that case, I could play literally anything and then I'd be
Yeah,
fine, you know? Anyway, so that's my little soapbox about. I think Fellow Thar is not that.
I don't think it's very good either. Yeah,
It's just not good. Um, just don't prioritize it at all, and probably pass it if you open it. Just don't take this
I'm
card.
not even sure. Like, if I'm in Abzan, I'm not even sure I'd take this card. Like,
I think I still.
if there's a good like single color card in the pack,
If there's a Dragon's Prey, do I pass this or do I
oh,
take this card? No, I
you
take
take the
Dragon's Prey.
Dragon's Prey for sure.
Right? So then that's a huge thing. I open this pack, I have this Abzan card and a Dragon's Prey, I take this. I see this pack five, there's this and a Dragon's Prey, I take the Dragon's Prey, right?
For
So
sure. Yeah,
yeah, I
totally.
don't want this card.
I think you're
Um,
almost never taking this over Dragon's Prey.
yeah, basically. So sorry, fellow Thar, you are boring, or not boring, just bad, which is almost worse. Then we're moving on to underrated cards for the set as we close out our first Sips episode. I mean, just to come full circle, my
Here we
underrated
go.
card is a card that I've already talked about, and I just want to say, hey, play this stinking card. Fleeting Effigy. This card is awesome. It's so good, guys.
You had such a great opportunity to say Tempest Talk there.
I not gonna lie, that was like on my list of like how funny would this be, but I decided I didn't want to. I didn't want to say the words. I didn't want you to be able to like cut that out and say Zach
Yeah,
said it.
just have a real
But
quote.
yeah, Fleeting Effigy I think is going to be just. I really really like it in draft for those decks and the Jeskai decks, and it's just awesome. I
It's not even
think
crazy in standard with the Corey Steel Cutter.
it's true. That's
Yeah.
true. It's just a one mana. You get to play it every turn. You make tokens. You do awesome stuff. You attack when you can, but you get to
Basically,
save it in your hand.
Ragavan.
It's not, but I like that comparison is interesting. Um, yeah, keeping it safe in your hand is something that's cool. Like there's a lot of stuff to like about this card, and I like all of them. So Fleeting Effigy,
Nice.
big fan. Uh, Flurry is a huge reason why I like it, but I think this card's dope. It's just so sick.
Yeah, I love that pick. I picked Rot Curse Rakshasa because I think this is a pretty sweet card. It's one in a black for a trample, 5/5 trample, one in a black. You heard it here. You heard it here first, folks. 5/5 trample for two. Unfortunately, it does have a downside. It says decayed, which means it can't block, and when it
Hmm.
attacks, you sacrifice it at end of combat. But then it has renew X black black, exile from your graveyard, put a decayed counter on each of X target creatures, activate only as a sorcery. I don't know. That's a lot. Like 2 mana 5/5 trample is enough to get me interested, even with a severe drawback. And the drawback is such that you can kind of work you can work with it, right? Like
You
if you
can,
care about creatures being sacrificed for any reason or anything like that. So it does need a specific thing. It's asking you to be like an aggressive black deck that utilizes the graveyard in some capacity.
mhm.
But it does pay you off for that. If you're an aggressive black deck, a 2 mana 5/5 trample that has an ability from the graveyard is ridiculous. So
Hmm.
and then I don't know if there's some sort of dumb combo, but like card can't be sacrificed. I think there might even be something that says text similar to that. Um,
If it was a warrior, yes, but
oh right, it's the
um,
warrior. It's the the Zergo or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I think maybe like in all of standard, you could maybe find something, but or explore or whatever. But it's like, I don't know, this is a lot on a card, and I'm not seeing
Mhm.
people giving this love, and I'm just gonna give it a little bit of love. I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think this is amazing, but I think there's a lot here that you could work with it and you could have some fun.
Do you play a single copy in your aristocrat stick?
No, mostly because I don't have one. If I
Okay.
happen to like have this card, I would definitely try it. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily want to check the wild card out of it yet.
Gotcha. I think that would be quite interesting having a one of fun of this card to be like play this early, attack, it dies. Now it's in my graveyard and I'm building up a big board and then you get to do the all your stuff is like can't block. I get to attack and then I get to sack everything and then the game's over. I don't know if
Right.
that's a play pattern that is feasible or works, but
I could see a corner case where you decay your own creatures if you don't have the sack engine.
oh, that's true. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, corner case, I'm gonna all my creatures have decay, I attack with everything, sack everything.
Yeah, could
I like
happen.
that.
It's usually going to be better to just be like your stuff can't block and
Hmm.
yeah, I kill you.
But I
But
think the one of fun of sounds great.
yeah,
I
if
like
if
it.
I had a copy floating around, I would definitely try it out.
I'll
It's
give
also
you one.
just a mythic wild card, you know. Maybe it
It's
should be
true. It's
okay.
true. Yeah, yeah. I'll send one over to you. You can have one of mine.
Thank you. Yes, once that must be one of the social features they're working on,
Mhm. Trading. Yeah.
card trading.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, if they did card trading and there's a gold fee, right? They're literally like the
Oh
middleman.
my God, yeah. They're like a
Mhm.
brokerage. They're
Yeah.
facilitating trades.
They would like if that was what made it happen, like I don't know.
That's a different business model. I like it,
Mhm.
but it's a
Yeah,
little more like, magic cards are stocks and
it is like that, which I think they're trying to stay away from at all costs. But if they did do it, I trade it to you.
there's a lot of similarities. Some of the cards are
Mhm.
meme stocks. Like,
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, this has been a great first Sips episode, Jeff. We got
yeah.
lots of stuff to talk about. Holy crap.
Yeah, that
Even
was
more
longer than
next
I thought
week.
it was going to be.
It always is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why we say that every week, but we do. Um, but Jeff, let's go to last call. But before we go to last call, sorry, do you have any last thoughts on the set as far as like original, the first impressions? I mean, we have spent a lot of time talking about it, so
Yeah. Other than really cool set and a fitting end to magic themed magic sets.
hmm
Love it.
I think, yeah, I think you're right. I'm honestly feeling fairly bright about the future. Not gonna lie, I'm feeling much, much better than I was in the before. So we'll see if
That's
that
how they get you.
stays.
They always do this.
That's true. That's true.
The sky's
Um,
falling, then you get there and you're like, oh, magic's still fun.
yeah, it ends up that Magic is just a great game. I like it a lot. All right, let's go to last call. So every week we talk about a beer that we were drinking and we rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. However, this has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently. This is just a fun way to rate beers. So don't feel bad when we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. We have to spit them out. We pour them on the ground and we hate them.
Silver beers are bad beers or just boring beers.
Gold beers are fine, but we wouldn't really drink these again.
And platinum is a solid beer. You would drink it again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You like these a lot. You show them off to your friends.
Mythic, these are the best of the best. These are, what's the right analogy for this? The Tempest Hawks of the beer world.
I knew you were going to say that. All right, everyone doesn't know. This joke has been going on far too long. If you this far in the episode,
Zach loves Tempest Hawk.
I was playing a deck at the end of my 13-hour stream when the set came out. And I finally had a deck, and I was like, it was such a train wreck. I had to play 3 Tempest Hawks in it, and Jeff was basically the only one watching. And well, It ended up
Tho-
going like 5-3 or something. It ended
Those
up doing pretty
Tempest Hawks
well.
won some games.
They did win some games, and I was pretty pissed. And I named the deck a bag of D's because they were a bunch of D level cards, but they kept winning, and I was really mad because I thought Tempest Hawk was a piece of garbage, and it was the reason I was winning a bunch of games, and so I was mad about it because I thought it was horrible. And Jeff is now reminding me about that every day,
His
every day,
favorite
every
white
day.
common now. Yeah, number one in the set.
If Tempest Hawk becomes the number one best winning common, I'm going to pull my hair out. God. Anyway, Jeff, let's talk about Juicin' New England style IPA.
Yes. Um, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was a New England style IPA for sure. They
Hmm.
definitely nailed that style. That being said, I didn't think it was like exceptional. I think like New England style IPA is a really tough style to make because there are some truly, truly fantastic
There
beers
are some
in this
great
category.
ones. Yeah.
And so this happens a lot with these beers where it's like, that was good. That was a good example of the style and it tasted good. But like the bar is so high when I'm
Hmm.
comparing it to, some of the all-time best beers because
It's
it
true.
just happens to be the same style. It puts it in a tough spot. But I would say, Sawdust City should not be ashamed of this. This is fine.
Hmm.
Um, it's not necessarily my favorite. Like, I don't know if I'll go back if I'm looking for a good East Coast style IPA, if this is what I'm going to go to. Um, but it it delivered what it promised.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all the things that you're saying. It's not my like pinnacle, hey, this is a New England IPA, try this one kind of thing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I liked it. It was like definitely tasty. I wonder if they had swapped out the Cascade, if I would have liked it more. Actually, that was something I was thinking while we were drinking it. So it wasn't. It was juicy, but maybe not juicy enough. You know what I
It
mean?
wasn't it actually wasn't quite juicy enough to really
Hmm.
compete with the big boys on that.
Yeah, but with that being said, I'm probably just going to give this a platinum though. I
Yeah.
don't think I'm going to go super low on it because I've had some of their lower end stuff, so I know what we could
I
have been in
it
for.
doesn't feel right to give this gold.
Hmm.
It's possible that I don't pick this up again, but I could see it happening, right? If I'm in the area or like I see
Hmm.
this at the LCBO, I'd be like, okay, like I'm looking for an East Coast IPA. I know this is a good version of it.
Yeah,
And they don't have, one of the ones that I is one of my favorites,
yeah,
then I would pick this up. So I think it's pretty reasonable to land on
hmm,
platinum here.
absolutely. Great. Well, double platinum beer
Yeah.
for this evening. Classic, classic Arena Regulars episode.
This is almost like the definition of platinum to me. It's
Yeah.
like I would pick this up again, if that's what I was vibing. But I'm not going to go seek it out or anything like that.
For sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. Great. Well, let's go to closing time. As always, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Instagram and Blue Sky.
May also find us on Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at the regular underscore Zach on Instagram and TikTok, as well as on Twitch. I stream Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Man, the beer, that juicing, it's juicing me up for sure. But I'm regular underscore Zach there. But Jeff, where can they find you?
The best place is our Discord channel. Come on there, tell us your stories, your experiences with Tarkir Dragonstorm Limited. I
Mhm.
want to hear it because, I've only done 2 drafts, but they have not been successful. So I'm looking for some tips, guys. Come give them to me. And we also run an arena peasant cube draft once a month. It's so much fun. It's a really, really well designed cube. And
It
if you want
is.
to jump in on that, all you have to do, pop into the Discord channel and say, hey, I want to play. And so the link for our Discord channel is in the show notes.
That is right. Also, please leave us a review on Spotify. Go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review there as well. Go to YouTube, comment on things. Engagement is really helpful for the podcast, but also just makes us feel really good, which is what we would appreciate. So if you're enjoying the show, let us know. This has been the Arena Regulars.
reminding you to get out and draft some Dragonstorm. It's a great set, and it just might be the last ever Magic themed Magic set. So don't miss it.
Good night.
All right, that's fine.